Chapter 1349. Almost at the same time, in an extremely hidden purple bamboo forest on Tongtian Mountain that was unknown to outsiders. Spiritual energy was like mist, and the purple bamboo forest formed a green-tiled courtyard deep in the purple bamboo forest. At that moment, a melodious tune came. It was deep like a cuckoo's cry or a parting of life and death. It was filled with helplessness and sorrow. There was a stone pavilion next to the green-tiled courtyard. A skinny lady was sitting in the pavilion at the moment. There was a guqin on the stone table before her. The lady's slender fingers plucked the guqin softly. Subsequently, an extremely deep and mellow tune came out. If one were to look closely, the lady's 10 slender fingers had been cut by the strings. The strings were dyed red with terrifying blood. Su Yuhan looked outside the bamboo forest blankly. Sorrow gathered in her beautiful eyes. Xiaochun, I really can't wait for you. Her face was much paler than before. There was a change in her appearance compared to 2 years ago. She seemed to have experienced the vicissitudes of life. Half of her hair that hung behind her shoulders had turned white too. It's the 7th day. My time has come. I'm useless. I've almost exhausted all my vitality, but I still can't understand the last formation. I can't get out of this cage. Su Yuhan ignored her slender fingers that were dripping with blood. She seemed to want to finish the last song with all her might. Even if I die, I won't do anything to let you down. It's a pity for our son. She looked down slightly at her protruding tummy. She could not hold back her tears eventually. That's good too. I'll bring my son along. We can take care of each other on the way to hell. The sorrow in her eyes grew. Xiaochun, if I'm not around anymore, you must take good care of Meng Meng and raise her. At that moment, she frowned and groaned in pain. Child, do you understand what I said? I can't bear to let you go too. Su Yuhan shook her head lightly. I can't bear to let you go. I can't bear to let your father go. I can't bear to let your sister go. I can't bear to let your grandparents go. I can't bear to let everything go, but what can I do? She smiled sadly as she spoke to this point. If I don't choose to do that, how can I face your father in the future? How can I face everyone? As soon as she finished speaking, she groaned again. In her stomach, a childish voice that wanted to cry, but had no tears, rang out. My dear mother, don't do anything stupid. I've sensed it. That damned old man of mine is here, and he's on his way. If you die, that damned old man of mine will commit suicide. This young master is in such a difficult situation. My biological mother doesn't love me, and my biological father doesn't love me. Who will save this baby? However, no matter how loud he screamed, Su Yuhan could not sense anything at all. She was still telling him everything in despair. Rustle, rustle, rustle. Suddenly, a faint sound rang out in the originally quiet purple bamboo forest. In an instant, the endless purple bamboo forest that was like a cage suddenly opened up a path. A young man dressed in Confucian robes slowly walked over. He looked like an elegant young master. The young man's face was like jade, and he had facial features that would make countless women in this world jealous. The person who came was Qi Huang. At the same time, Su Yuhan's music paused. Her face turned pale, and she looked at Qi Huang with her eyelashes trembling. Qi Huang ignored Su Yuhan's gaze and walked to her slowly. He could not help but smile lightly as he looked at her breathtakingly beautiful face. Ms. Su, have you had a good rest recently? However, Su Yuhan acted like she did not hear him. Qi Huang did not mind. After a faint smile, he noticed her fingers that were stained with blood. He could not help but feel sorry for her. What a pair of good hands. What a pity. He was about to grab the pair of hands after saying that. Get lost. Su Yuhan stood up all of a sudden and glared at him coldly. If you dare to touch me, I'll kill myself right in front of you. The resolute look in her eyes was moving. Kill yourself. Qi Huang chuckled all of a sudden. You only have nascent soul cultivation base. If I really want to touch you, you won't even have the chance to kill yourself. The space between his brows was filled with evil. Although he tried to hide it, Su Yuhan noticed it. She said immediately, You're not Qi Huang. Who are you? Huh? How did you find out? A hint of surprise appeared on Qi Huang's face. He subsequently grinned. The piece of trash that you're talking about is dead now. Meanwhile, his body is mine now. Are you surprised? Su Yuhan said nothing, but she was secretly shocked. Clearly, she did not expect the Immortal Palace's young master to be possessed. Such a calm personality. Qi Huang shook his head in disappointment, seeing that she was expressionless. Let me guess. You've been thinking about breaking out of the purple bamboo forest formation, haven't you? However, it's a pity that you don't know that the last formation was set up by me. Not to mention you, even a spatial tempering stage cultivator wouldn't be able to break it. Su Yuhan's expression finally changed as soon as he was done speaking. The confinement formation used the purple bamboo forest as its base. There were a total of 36,000 combination formations. Before this, she had spent almost 2 years to comprehend 35,999 combination formations. There was only one left now. She did not expect it to be set up by the other party. Qi Huang finally smiled in satisfaction. I can also tell you that your man is already on his way to save you. Su Yuhan's body froze when she heard that. She then said blankly, "What's the point of lying to me at this point? Your man's name is Yichun, right?" Qi Huang said again, "He's very powerful. He killed a mastery stage god transformation stage powerhouse with his cultivation base at the intermediate stage god transformation stage. He even killed more than 10 intermediate stage god transformation stage powerhouses." At that moment, Su Yuhan's delicate body trembled. Her beautiful eyes were filled with joy that she had not seen for a long time. "He's here to save you. If I were you, I'd give up the thought of committing suicide. Perhaps he can save you." Qi Huang chuckled as if he was mocking her. On Tongtian Mountain, the sun shone brightly. Hundreds of thousands of cultivators held their breaths as they looked at the entire sky. However, there was still no movement after waiting for an hour under the scorching sun. "It's almost time. Why isn't he here yet? Don't tell me he's really scared." Someone couldn't bear the loneliness and said, "I'm afraid that's the case." His words were immediately agreed by the others. After all, even if he knows that it's a dead end, he can't possibly barge in, right? Ha ha. He's a native of the lower realm after all. Temple Master Lei, who was in the sky, sneered. However, ye can even endure the hatred of stealing his wife. Perhaps he can really take a peek at immortality. Ha ha ha. His teasing immediately made the other god transformation stage powerhouses laugh out loud. They seemed to be sure that Yichun really did not dare to come. On the other hand, the sect master of the void everlasting sect, Zhou Dongxian, shook his head and said, "Everyone, let's disperse. We're making a mountain out of a molehill for someone who's afraid of death." Just as everyone was about to rush to the main hall, the space above everyone's heads suddenly trembled violently. Then there was a thunderous explosion. In an instant, the weather changed and heaven and earth shook. At that moment, everyone could not help but raise their heads. An indescribable pressure suddenly filled the sky. It whistled over from the distant horizon. The pressure was so great that it could be said to be earth-shattering. At that moment, even Qin Song, who was in the crowd, could not help but look at the sky in shock. He cried out involuntarily, "He's here, he's here." P.S. Chapter 3 has been updated today. More updates tomorrow. End of this chapter. Chapter 1350. Boom, boom, boom. In the vast sky, the wind and clouds rolled back, and the world changed. The clouds quickly gathered, turning from white to black, and finally condensing into a resplendent purple. It was lightning, endless lightning, carrying the might of heaven and earth as it charged in the direction of Tongtian Mountain. "He's here, he's really here." Qin Song stared blankly at the horizon, looking at the end of the endless pressure. At that moment, his heart became incomparably shocked. At this moment, not only him, but all the hundreds of thousands of people present suddenly raised their heads and stared blankly in that direction. In the vast thunderclouds, a peerless giant dragon broke through the thunderclouds and charged over. Endless ferocious aura emanated from its eyes. While everyone was shocked, their gazes were all attracted by the thin figure on the black dragon. It was a young man. His white hair fluttered in the wind, and his eyebrows were sharp. His face was expressionless. and he held a 6-year-old girl in his left hand. They seemed to be father and daughter. Over a dozen figures stood behind him, and all of them had unleashed their auras, causing the surrounding space to flutter. Boundless pressure assaulted them. It was dignity, killing intent, and even more so, monstrous rage. Countless people were shocked, and their expressions changed drastically. They felt like they could not stabilize their bodies, as if they were about to kneel on the ground uncontrollably. It was also at that moment that the Thunderhall Master of the Immortal Palace suddenly raised his eyes and looked straight at the figure. His pupils constricted violently. Even though he, the Thunderhall Master of the Immortal Palace, was known to be the most proficient in lightning techniques, he knew that he could not change the weather. This was the power of the laws of heaven and earth. Without becoming a true immortal, how could he exercise the laws of heaven and earth? Is an illusion. The Thunderhall Master's heart skipped a beat, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. It was not just him. The sect master of the void, everlasting sect, Zhou Dongxian, who was beside him, could not help but inhale a breath of cold air when he saw the figure riding the dragon. For some reason, the true origin energy in his body began to tremble uncontrollably as Yi Chun appeared. He could not be clearer about this. It meant that Yi Chun posed an extreme threat to him. Isn't he at mid-god transformation stage? Thinking to there, Zhou Dongxian was inwardly shocked. Why does it give me the aura of a perfected soul formation cultivator? At the same time, the dozen or so soul formation powerhouses standing in the air, including the Severing Sky Sect's sect master, stared straight at Yi Chun. Shocked, there was no one who was not shocked. Before this, they might have heard of Yi Chun's achievements. However, to them, Yi Chun's combat strength was at most at the advanced god transformation stage. However, the deterrence that Yi Chun gave them at that moment was not as simple as being at the late-stage god transformation stage. He's Yi Chun, the person from the lower realm who caused the Immortal Palace to lose a palace master and more than 10 early-stage soul formation experts. Unbelievable. Simply unbelievable. If I didn't see it with my own eyes, I wouldn't believe that a person with such an aura came from the lower realm. In the silent world, countless voices rose and fell and interweaved in the crowd, seeming to be in an uproar. The black dragon stopped when it was less than 3,000 meters away from Tontian Mountain. Under everyone's gaze, Yi Chun let go of his daughter's hand and took a step forward. His eyes that were as deep as the stars looked at the entire world. Qin Shui, who was in the crowd below, looked at Yi Chun up close. She was shocked and surprised. She wanted to greet him by instinct. However, before she could say anything, Qin Song performed a silent meditation. The latter said with a trembling voice, "Girl, don't act recklessly. Otherwise, the Kanwuqin family will face a great disaster." Qin Shui could only look at Yi Chun with all her might. A few seconds later, an extremely calm voice came from Yi Chun's mouth. 15 intermediate stage soul formation cultivators and 8 advanced stage soul formation cultivators are here to welcome me. What grand lineup. Welcome? Hearing that, Hall Master Lei smirked coldly and stepped forward. He looked at him and said, "I'm the Immortal Palace's Hall Master Lei. If outsiders don't have an invitation from the Immortal Palace, they're not allowed to enter the mountain to participate in the dual cultivation ceremony." Participate in the dual cultivation ceremony? Yi Chun stood with his hands behind his back. He looked at him coldly and said, "You're wrong. I'm not here to participate in the dual cultivation ceremony." At this point, his gaze turned cold, and a dense aura immediately surged out. "I'm here to flatten your Immortal Palace today and kill everything." As soon as he finished speaking, at first, the world was deathly silent for a moment, and then waves of clamor that were like stormy waves erupted. Even though they already knew Yi Chun's purpose for coming here, they still did not expect Yi Chun to dare to say such words under such circumstances. Shameless boasting. On the ground, a perfected nascent soul cultivator from the Immortal Palace sneered. "You think you can destroy my Immortal Palace with just a bunch of useless people like you?" He thought that Yi Chun would not be able to leave alive today. With Hall Master Lei and the rest by his side, He said those words fearlessly. As soon as he finished speaking, the other Immortal Palace cultivators immediately cheered and praised him. The former was getting more and more pleased with himself. However, in the next moment, a large hand suddenly pressed down on him from the sky, directly crushing the space where he was. "Idiot, do you think you have a right to speak?" The Patriarch of Hell chuckled. His hand swept across the sky, covering a radius of several dozen meters, like a cloud that covered the sky. The perfected nascent soul cultivator's face immediately revealed shock. "Bastard!" When an Immortal Palace soul formation cultivator saw this, he immediately shouted coldly and quickly made a move. He turned into a large hand and reached out towards the former, clearly wanting to save him. Scram! The Patriarch of Hell slapped his hand heavily, directly shattering the former's attack. Then he slapped down, forcefully smashing the perfected nascent soul cultivator into meat paste. Dead silence. The world suddenly fell into a dead silence. Everyone had looks of disbelief on their faces. Facing such a lineup from the Immortal Palace, Yi Chun and the rest actually dared to take the initiative to attack and kill the people from the Immortal Palace. Impudent! How dare you? At that moment, Hall Master Lei and the rest were furious. More than 20 terrifying auras immediately erupted in the sky that might directly sealed off the entire world. Is the battle about to begin? Many people were incomparably shocked. A god war, a god war. A mighty figure said with a shocked expression, "Our violet world has never seen such a grand scene like today." Hall Master Lei's entire body was bathed in lightning. He stared at Yi Chun with a murderous aura. "Yi, the Immortal Palace will give you another chance. Since it's not easy for you to cultivate, as long as you're willing to submit to the Immortal Palace, kneel outside the Tongtian Mountain and beg for the Immortal Palace's forgiveness, we might spare your life." He was high and mighty like a god. His tone was filled with extreme arrogance and solemnity, as if everything was under his control. However, Yi Chun could not be bothered to waste his breath. He raised his arm lightly and spat softly. "Kill." End of this chapter. Chapter 1351. Kill. The moment the word kill was said, it was like a demonic sound of death, surging and lingering in everyone's minds. All of a sudden, the temperature between heaven and earth froze, and it was replaced by a monstrous, murderous aura and endless killing intent. It was as if winter had arrived, and fallen leaves flew everywhere. Boom! At that moment, a divine light suddenly erupted from Yi Chen's body. His entire body shone with golden light like an ancient god that had awakened. He activated his body with all his might and took a step forward. Then, he gently stepped on the entire Tongtian Mountain. Boom! In an instant, the entire Tongtian Mountain trembled violently. Endless mountain rocks, earth, and trees collapsed, as if someone had stepped on the world. At that moment, everyone was shocked, and their expressions changed. He really dares to attack. Even Hall Master Lei and the rest could not help but be shocked. One had to know that Yi Chen's camp did not have a single late-stage soul formation cultivator, but there were 8 in the Immortal Palace's camp. Not only them, but even the crowd on the ground gasped at the sight of this. Kill. The Patriarch of Hell chuckled. "Today I'll destroy this damned Immortal Palace and destroy their orthodoxy. Kill all the men and let me enjoy all the women." With that, he turned into a long rainbow with a monstrous aura and joined Yi Chen's camp directly. "Fellow Yi, leave these 8 late-stage soul formation cultivators to the Patriarch. Can you do it?" Yi Chun was stunned. Meeting his gaze, the Patriarch of Hell could not help but grit his teeth and say, "I have to do it even if I can't. I won't die. Don't worry. You and Wu Shuang will deal with the mid-stage soul formation cultivators." Yi Chun waved his sleeve and sent him flying directly. His cold voice sounded, "As for these 8 pieces of trash, leave them to me." Swoosh! Yi Chun charged at Hall Master Lei and the rest of the 8 of them with a single move. His mighty voice shook the surroundings. "Immortal Palace's dogs, accept your death." Seeing this scene, everyone's eyeballs almost popped out of their sockets. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. Someone cried out in shock. Is he going to fight 8 late-stage soul formation cultivators by himself? Many cultivators roared. You have to know that he's only at mid-stage soul formation. Although he killed a Hall Master of the Immortal Palace, there's no need to be so arrogant. Crazy, this kid is crazy. Countless people couldn't believe their eyes. Even Yi Wushuang and the rest could not help but worry. Yi Wushuang's eyes focused. He turned in his sword intent and wanted to help Yi Chun. Don't go. The Patriarch of Yellow Springs stopped him and said in a deep voice, You know better than me what kind of person fellow Yi is. Since he dares to say that, I'm sure he has some confidence. Yi Wushuang stopped walking, but there was still worry in his eyes when he looked at Yi Chun. Is Big Brother going to use that divine ability? Yes, Big Brother's body is strong, so he can use it. He seemed to have thought of something and couldn't help but smile. He then said with some pity, It's just that Big Brother has used this move in advance. I'm afraid you'll have to spend a lot of effort to refine it later. What divine ability? Patriarch Yellow Springs' interest was piqued. Before Yi Wushuang could speak, the Thunder Hall Master in the void laughed out of extreme anger. Yi, you're only at mid-stage soul transformation. How dare you try to fight the 8 of us alone? Looks like you're destined to die here today. Is that so? However, Yi Chun smiled strangely when he heard that. Then, he overlapped his hands, and a strange seal hovered on his fingertips. Under everyone's gaze, 2 balls of black and white energy condensed between his palms. The black and white intersected. It was the yin and yang energy and the Tai Chi pattern. What was he doing? Everyone could not help but focus when they saw that. Even Thunder Hall Master and the rest stared at this scene. Their intuition told them that the change of the seal seemed to be some kind of divine ability. Only the smile at the corner of Yi Wushuang's lips grew brighter. Boom! In the blink of an eye, the Tai Chi pattern in Yi Chun's hand suddenly expanded. Then, it turned into 2 streams of black energy that spun rapidly beside him. In an instant, the world shook as if it had been turned upside down. At that moment, endless spiritual energy of heaven and earth moved toward him crazily. It covered the sky and covered the earth, drowning him completely. Yi Chun stood with his head held high. He absorbed spiritual energy from all directions and devoured the essence of the sun and moon. Meanwhile, the 2 streams of black and white energy beside him began to grow violently. It was as if he had turned into a huge purple-gold cocoon. Quick, stop him now. Sensing the earth-shattering aura, Thunder Hall Master's expression changed drastically. Then he activated his cultivation base and charged toward Yi Chun frantically. Do it. At the same time, the Void Infinity Sect Master, Zhou Dongxian, and the remaining 7 Master Stage God Transformation Cultivators attacked at the same time. For some reason, the pressure that Yi Chun gave them at that moment was growing. It was not an exaggeration to say that they were on tenterhooks. Yi, go to hell. Thunder Hall Master summoned a terrifying bolt of lightning and blasted it directly at the cocoon outside Yi Chun's body. The killing intent was almost tangible. However, the lightning that was enough to kill any mid-stage God Transformation Cultivator was absorbed by the cocoon that wrapped around Yi Chun. What? Thunder Hall Master's expression changed instantly. Before he could react, an incomparably surging energy suddenly surged out from the giant cocoon. Boom! Under such energy, Thunder Hall Master, who was the first to be hit, let out a muffled grunt before his body was sent flying. The other 7 people were also sent flying. How could this be? The sky-severing sect master forcefully suppressed the surging vital energy and blood in his body. He looked at the purple-gold cocoon with incomparable shock in his eyes. The 8 of us Master Stage God Transformation Cultivators are unable to resist his aura. Crack, crack, crack. At that moment, cracks appeared on the surface of the purple-gold cocoon, as if some terrifying existence was about to awaken from within. Boom! With a loud bang, the giant cocoon was completely broken. The scene that entered everyone's eyes caused everyone to be incomparably shocked. 3 Yi Chun. 3 Yi Chun had appeared in the giant cocoon. One of them was dressed in green, one in white and one in black. Apart from that, their facial features and figures were identical, as if they were carved from the same mold. Among them, the green-robed Yi Chen's gaze was indifferent. The white-robed Yi Chen looked like an immortal with outstanding grace. The black-robed Yi Chen's demonic energy surged, as if he was the reincarnation of the demon lord. The three Yi Chen stood side by side, each with a different temperament. Three terrifying auras enveloped the surroundings, making one's heart palpitate. Meng Meng, who was in Wu Lan's arms, was also stunned. She widened her eyes and squeaked, "Three dads? Why are there three Xiao Chun?" Yi Hai and Wu Lan revealed expressions as if they had seen a ghost, even though Yi Chun was their son and they had been together for more than 20 years. However, at that moment, they really could not tell which of the three Yi Chun was their son. End of this chapter. Chapter 1352. F***CK. Even though the patriarch had seen a lot in his previous life, he could not help but be shocked when he saw the three Yi Chens suddenly appear. Are these clones? The patriarch of hell stared at the three Yi Chen in shock. No, since they're clones, why are all three fellow Yus at intermediate stage soul formation stage? Impossible. This is impossible. He shook his head frantically. He knew the clone technique too, but everyone knew that clones were separated from the main body. The more clones there were, the more the power of the main body would be scattered, causing the power of the clones to be a level lower than the main body. However, the three Chins before him were all intermediate stage soul formation stage. This is three pure ones, Yi Wushuang explained calmly. This divinity is different from ordinary clone techniques. The two bodies that Big Brother split can inherit the power and cultivation of the main body. Moreover, these two bodies will evolve and grow in the future. How is this possible? Jealousy and envy appeared in the patriarch of hell's eyes. Where did fellow Yi get such a heaven-defying divinity? At this point, he seemed to have thought of something and frowned. Wait, since fellow Yi knows this divinity, why haven't you used it before? Yi Wushuang's smile froze when he heard that, and he shook his head slightly. At that moment, the world was dead silent. Everyone was dumbfounded. They did not expect that there would suddenly be two identical Yi Chun. What divinity is this? Hall Master Lei and the rest gasped. Under everyone's gaze, the green-robed Yi Chun looked at the black and white Yi Chun next to him quietly. He could not help but reveal a hint of nostalgia in his eyes. It's been a long time, old friends. Yi Wushuang was right. The black and white Yi Chun in front of him were the clones that he had created using three pure ones. It was also the three stages before Yi Chun ascended to the position of Heavenly Emperor. The green-robed Yi Chun was when he roamed the cultivation world. The white-robed Yi Chun was his representative when he ascended to the immortal world. Meanwhile, the black-robed Yi Chun was a demon body that he condensed to adapt to the filthy, demonic energy of the devil world after he mistakenly entered the devil world. His I Chi turning three pure ones technique was different from Ying's I Chi turning three pure ones technique. The former's cultivation was at most an incomplete version of it, which was why Ying failed. The three Yi Chins could be summarized as spirit body, immortal body, and devil body. The ones who won were the jade body, the evil body, and the dharma body. He didn't want to use this divine ability unless he had no other choice. His original plan was to wait until he returned to the immortal world before condensing them. At that time, the cultivation of the two clones would at least be at the level of a true immortal. Now that it had been unleashed ahead of time, it was only at the mid-soul formation stage. If it wanted to evolve to the late soul formation stage, it would take a lot of effort to make it grow. However, everything was worth it to save Su Yuhan. Ha ha ha. At this moment, a sneer suddenly resounded in the sky. Yi, do you think you can scare us by casually conjuring two clones? However, Temple Master Lei looked at Yi Chan in disdain. These two clones of yours are illusions. Even if they're real, it won't change anything. Hearing that, the other 7 mastery stage, God transformation stage, powerhouses nodded subconsciously. They had never heard of a clone being able to inherit the cultivation base and stage of the main body. Therefore, to them, The 2 extra Yi-chun were just superficial. Is that so? Yi-chun smiled non-committally and nodded slightly at the black and white Yi-chun. Boom! At the next moment, 3 mid-stage god transformation stage auras suddenly erupted, sweeping through heaven and earth and shaking the surroundings. I'll destroy Tongtian Mountain today. Yi-chun took a step out and shot up. He swung his Tongtian golden fist at Temple Master Lei. At the same time, the black and white Yi-chun moved. The white-robed Yi-chun's white robe fluttered as he stepped into the air, causing the air to collapse. He charged straight at the void everlasting sect master, Zhou Dongxian, and the rest. The black-robed Yi-chun let out a long roar. A dark gleam flashed in his eyes. He extended a huge hand that was wrapped in endless black energy toward the sky, severing sect master and the rest. Kill! At that moment, the Patriarch of Hell and Yi Wushuang attacked at the same time. They charged at the dozen or so mid-stage god transformation stage cultivators. Attack! Temple Master North Yun, the Patriarch of Green Spirit, and nearly 10 other beginner stage god transformation stage cultivators attacked one after another, each finding their own opponent. Xiaohei's body swayed and protected Yi Hai and Wu Lan tightly. Its fierce eyes scanned the surroundings covetously, preventing anyone from attacking Yi Hai and Wu Lan. Perfect timing. Temple Master Lei snorted coldly. The lightning on his body was dazzling as if it had split the day. He charged at Yi-chun with terrifying might. Yi-chun soared into the sky and tore the sky apart. He activated his body with all his might and was fearless of the lightning. He threw a punch at Temple Master Lei. Even Temple Master Lei's expression changed when he saw the might of that punch. Crack! With a violent, crisp sound, Temple Master Lei immediately felt a heavy blow to his chest, as if all the bones in his body had broken. He groaned in extreme pain and staggered backward. His eyes were filled with shock when he looked at Yi-chun. What a powerful body! Upon closer inspection, his chest had caved in deeply. Yi-chun walked through the shattered space as if he was taking a leisurely stroll. He charged at Temple Master Lei again. At the same time, the sky-severing sect master saw the black-robed Yi-chun charging at him. He could not help but scoff. Then, he quickly formed a sky-severing seal and slammed it at the black-robed Yi-chun. However, the black-robed Yi-chun's black hair shot into the sky. His hand covered the sky like a giant claw. Accompanied by endless black energy, it slammed at the sky, severing sect master fiercely. Rumble! At that moment, the 2 extremely terrifying attacks collided. The sky-severing seal that was lying in the air suddenly shattered. The black-robed Yi-chun's giant palm did not slow down. You're courting death. The sky-severing sect master's gaze turned cold. He also slapped out with his palm and collided with the former's giant palm. Bleck! The sky-severing sect master spat a mouthful of blood and retreated continuously. He was extremely shocked to discover that an extremely strange energy surged into his body and destroyed his internal organs wildly. It even had the urge to spread to his dantian. Oh no, it's demonic energy. The sky-severing sect master's expression changed drastically. He did not expect demonic energy to invade his body. He took a deep breath and tried his best to suppress the demonic energy in his body. Dying! At that moment, a cold, killing intent landed on him. The spot between the black-haired Yi-chun's brows wiggled. Subsequently, a black vertical eye appeared at a speed visible to the naked eye. As the vertical eye opened, it was followed by an extremely strange black divine light. At that moment, all the hair on the sky-severing sect master's body stood on end. He frantically activated the protective spirit treasure hidden in his body. Uffed! However, the black divine light broke through his spiritual armor with incomparable ease, before stabbing into his Yintang acupoint. No! The sky-severing sect master's expression changed drastically. With an unwilling roar, his body exploded on the spot, turning into a bloody mist that filled the sky. This voice, which was mixed with unwillingness and fear, shook the entire sky and entered everyone's ears. The world suddenly fell into dead silence. Countless people looked at the black-haired Yi Chun in shock. Their eyes were filled with shock. The sky-severing sect master, a late-stage god transformation stage cultivator, was dead. At the same time, the other 6 late-stage god transformation stage cultivators, including Hall Master Lei, were stunned. Then, they could not help but exclaim in unison, "Fellow sky-severing sect." P.S. Chapter 3. I wanted to write a few more chapters today to finish writing the fighting plot, but fighting is too difficult to write. I can only write 3 chapters. Sorry. Into this chapter. Chapter 1353. Fellow sky-severing. Hall Master Lei and the other 7 late-stage god transformation stage cultivators roared furiously. Their faces were ashen, and their eyes were filled with disbelief. The battle had just begun, but one of them had already died. Moreover, it was the sect master of the sky-severing sect, who was one of the strongest. The sect master of the sky-severing sect is dead. The hundreds of thousands of cultivators below were extremely shocked. They stared fixedly at the black-robed Yi Chun. They could not believe what they were seeing. At the same time, 2 more screams shook the void. The Patriarch of Hell activated an incomparably vast and mysterious seal, directly killing an intermediate stage god transformation stage cultivator on the spot. Yi Wushuang's sword tore through the air, and his sword intent was unstoppable. An intermediate stage god transformation stage cultivator's body was sliced open by the sword, and only his primordial spirit managed to escape. Everyone was even more shocked. Damn it! Hall Master Lei's eyes surged with rage when he saw that. He roared, "Activate the killing formation!" Boom! Tens of thousands of cultivators leaped out from the Tongtian mountain in an instant. They unleashed all of their cultivation and poured it into the formation around them. Tens of thousands of formation beams shot into the sky. These tens of thousands of formation beams turned into a huge formation light screen in the air, like an upside-down bowl. In an instant, the world lost its color, and the wind and clouds changed. The entire Tongtian mountain turned from white to black, as if it had turned into an endless land of ghosts that devoured everything. Endless imprints appeared in the air, enveloping everyone within. Waves of terrifying, invisible killing intent caused even the sky to tremble. The invisible killing intent seemed to want to kill all living beings. Someone in Yi Chen's camp screamed under such a terrifying tremor. He felt as if his flesh and blood were melting while every bone in his body was shattering. Black, Hall Master North Yun, Shi Qianhan, and the rest, who were fighting, were covered in endless blood. Countless wounds appeared on their bodies, as if they had turned into bloodmen. Oh no! Sensing the might, the Patriarch of Hell's expression changed slightly. He immediately roared and raised his hand to form a seal in the air, as if he wanted to resist the killing intent. Yi Wushuang's body emitted a golden glow as he faintly confronted the killing intent. The white clothes on his body began to shatter at a speed visible to the naked eye. "It hurts, it hurts!" Yi Hai and Wu Lan were horrified. Their bodies were on the verge of collapsing. Blackie roared angrily and drove his huge body to protect them below, using his physical body to forcefully resist the killing intent. Even so, his dragon scales were sent flying and blood splattered everywhere. Ha ha ha! When Hall Master Lei saw this, he could not help but laugh out loud. "Yi, this is the method that my immortal palace has prepared for you. Let's see how you deal with it." The sect master of the true void, everlasting sect, and the other late divine transformation realm cultivators sneered, because they were not affected by the killing formation at all. Killing array? Yi Chen could not help but squint when he sensed the changes in the Patriarch of Hell and the rest. He then took a deep breath in and said, "I'll break your killing formation today." The next moment, with a sway of his figure, a myriad of rays of divine light blossomed from him. His body expanded to a size of 100 meters, and he was practically the same size as the sky. He directly broke through the light screen of the formation, and from afar, it seemed as if Pengu had awakened. "Oh my God!" Seeing this scene, someone couldn't help but exclaim, "Break!" Yi Chun pushed his physical body to the limit. It was as if Gong Gong had touched Mount Buzhou angrily. He stomped his foot hard on Tongtian Mountain. At that moment, Tongtian Mountain shook violently. Boom! An earth-shattering explosion erupted. Tens of thousands of immortal palace cultivators on the ground died on the spot. Countless formations shattered, and the killing formation that covered everyone collapsed on the spot. The Patriarch of Hell felt as if he had been pardoned. At that moment, the expressions of Home Master Lei and the rest changed drastically. Yi Chen's body shrunk, and his entire body was bathed in divine light. He was like a god walking in the world. "Is this the killing formation that you've prepared for me? I'll show you what a killing weapon is." With that, he stomped heavily. Boom! At that moment, the Tongtian Mountain that stretched for tens of thousands of kilometers shook once again. It was as if an earth dragon was turning over. Everyone felt the ground beneath their feet shake back and forth, as if there was an earthquake. They could not help but turn ashen. What was he doing now? The true void everlasting sect master, Zhou Dongxian, trembled in his heart. Sword come! Under everyone's gazes, Yi Chun waved his hand at the air. In an instant, the endless earth energy in the entire Tongtian Mountain gathered toward him in the form of a yellow glow that was visible to the naked eye. Finally, it turned into a yellow longsword in his hand. The sword pierced through heaven and earth, pierced through the void, and crossed the sun and moon. Sword chi swept through the heavens and earth, as if a peerless divine sword had appeared. At that moment, everyone raised their heads and stared at the yellow longsword in his hand, dumbfounded. Extracting the mountain soul as a sword, gathering earth energy as intent. When the Patriarch of Hell saw this, he could not help but inhale a breath of cold air. He could not help but exclaim, "Oh my God, fellow Yi is so generous." Even he, who was at the tribulation stage of his previous life, could not do such a thing. With the 3-foot-long dragon spring sword in hand, "I swear I won't rest until I kill the evil." Yi Chun held the sword in one hand and slashed in the air. Boom! A 1,000-foot-long dragon soared in the sky, striking the sun and moon. It turned the space within 10 kilometers into a long river, directly slashing toward Home Master Lei and the rest. Oh no! At that moment, Home Master Lei and the rest had goosebumps all over their bodies. At the same time, their expressions changed drastically, and they retreated rapidly. However, the sect master of the Mystic Sun sect did not manage to dodge. With a scream, his head was chopped off on the spot. His primordial spirit seemed to want to escape, but it was torn apart by the sword chi that covered 10 kilometers. Fellow Xinyang, seeing this, Home Master Lei and the rest were stunned. There was shock, fear, and even more disbelief. Killing a late-stage god transformation stage with a single strike. Everyone was terrified, as if they had seen a ghost. "All of you will die today." Yi Chun took a step forward with his sword in hand. At the same time, the black and white Yi Chun attacked again. Each of them charged at a late-stage god transformation stage cultivator. "You guys hold back his clone. We'll work together to deal with him." Hall Master Lei suddenly looked at the 2 late-stage god transformation stage cultivators and roared, "Everyone, if you guys hold back, all of us will die today." The 5 late-stage god transformation stage cultivators nodded at the same time. Their expressions were extremely terrible. At that moment, they were scared out of their wits by Yi Chun. "Attack!" Temple Master Lei roared and immediately joined forces with the 2 Master Stage Soul Transformation Cultivators to attack Yi Chun. Their eyes were filled with madness. Roar! The Thunder Temple Master's entire body was covered in lightning. Holding a thunder halberd in his hand, he charged at Yi Chun with terrifying thunder might. Kill! Behind him, the long hair of the void, everlasting sect master fluttered. He turned into a ferocious beast that devoured the void and attacked Yi Chun with a killing technique. Oof. Yi Chun scoffed. A sword gleam shot into the sky from his hand and slashed forward. It tore through the void like a rainbow, piercing through the moon. End of chapter. Chapter 1354. Boom. Yi Chun's sword collided with the trio's divine abilities. How powerful was the combined attack of 3 late-stage soul formation cultivators? Each of their attacks was comparable to a nuclear weapon, forcefully wiping out a country. Rumble. A black hole was pierced through the void. A terrifying energy storm swept out in all directions violently. Wherever it passed, the earth was destroyed and the void collapsed. Even the people on the ground were screaming as they desperately resisted such power. At that moment, Hallmaster Lei and the other 2 vomited blood. Their bodies flew backward uncontrollably, and their faces became extremely dispirited. Yi Chun was also pushed back dozens of meters. He felt the vital energy and blood in his body churning, as if it was about to burst his blood vessels. Guys, did you see that? Hallmaster Lei laughed maniacally. This brat is only a mid-stage soul formation cultivator after all. As long as the 3 of us aren't split up, we can exhaust him to death. The true void, everlasting sect master, Zhou Dongxian, and the other 2 revealed looks of joy. However, in the next moment, another earth-shattering shriek resounded in the sky. Everyone looked over, and the scene that entered their eyes caused fear to appear on their faces. The white-robed Yi Chun and the black-robed Yi Chun had joined forces to kill a late-stage soul formation cultivator. The remaining late-stage soul formation cultivator's face was filled with shock, and he had suffered many injuries. Another person died. The smiles on the faces of Hallmaster Lei and the others froze. They had a total of 8 late-stage soul formation cultivators. Now, 4 of them had died, and there were less than 4 left. Meanwhile, Yi Chun had the help of 2 clones. Sooner or later, the 2 clones would kill the other late-stage soul formation cultivator. By then, the 3 Yi Chun would join forces to fight the 3 of them. How could they fight? In an instant, the true void, everlasting sect master, Zhou Dongxian, and the others could not help but break out in cold sweat. Fear and trembling kept growing in their hearts like seaweed. Fellow Yi, I'll back out of this matter. I'll back out. At that moment, the Jade Feather Mountain Patriarch, who was besieged by the black and white Yi Chun, spat blood repeatedly as he roared crazily. At this moment, his complexion was extremely dispirited. His left shoulder had forcefully caved in, revealing the ghastly white bones that had been dyed red with fresh blood. Hearing those words, Hallmaster Lei's expression involuntarily changed. Then, he couldn't help glaring at the former. Fellow Yi, I'm willing to withdraw. I won't interfere in this matter anymore. The Patriarch of Jade, Feather Mountain, did not seem to hear his roar. He looked at Yi Chun in fear. As long as you're willing to let me go, I promise that I won't be your enemy anymore. I can swear. He was almost roaring as he said those words. There was no one who did not fear death, especially at his level. The reason why he helped the Immortal Palace deal with Yi Chun before was because he felt that Yi Chun could not possibly be a match for the Immortal Palace. However, now 4 of them died. No matter how much confidence he had in Immortal Palace, he couldn't hold on anymore. At the same time, the black and white Yi Chun stopped moving. At that moment, everyone looked at Yi Chun, including the Patriarch of Jade Feather Mountain and the Sect Master of the Void Everlasting Sect, Zhou Dongxian. Meeting the Jade Feather Mountain's Patriarch's gaze, Yi Chun said calmly, "If you retreat now, I won't kill you." "All right, thank you." Hearing that, the Patriarch of Jade Feather Mountain felt as if he had been pardoned. After a moment of ecstasy, he immediately activated his true origin energy without hesitation and turned into a long rainbow that fled into the sky. Hallmaster Lei's eyes were wide open. Be Aster starred, "Come back." However, the former did not even turn around as if he did not hear him. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared into the horizon. Hallmaster Lei's expression was ferocious, and his killing intent was heavenly. Jade Feather Mountain. After this, my immortal palace will definitely be destroyed. Before he could finish speaking, two voices sounded in his ears. Fellow Yi, I won't care about this anymore. Please let me go. I won't care either. The sect master of the Void Everlasting Sect, Zhou Dongxian, and the other late-stage soul formation cultivator spoke in unison as they looked at Yichun. Blurg. Hall Master Lei spat a mouthful of blood on the spot. His eyes were filled with disbelief as he looked at the two of them. Why you guys? Yichun's expression eased as he said, Sure. Hall Master Lei, don't say anymore. Zhou Dongxuan's expression was extremely gloomy. I don't want the conditions that your immortal palace agreed to this time. Good luck to your immortal palace. With that, he immediately leaped and left. Be asterisk starred. You're simply a be asterisk starred. Hall Master Lei's face was ashen. You could be asterisk starred, just you wait. In the future, my immortal palace will definitely destroy you. So be it. We're only pursuing the great Tao of immortality. Our disciples and inheritances are ultimately worldly possessions. The last late-stage soul formation cultivator sneered. Moreover, it's still unknown whether your immortal palace will survive this time. After he finished speaking, he also left. The world suddenly became deathly silent. Everyone stared at this scene with their mouths agape. They didn't expect that such a shocking reversal would occur. However, after thinking about it carefully, it made sense. The 8 late-stage soul formation cultivators had been killed by Yichun. The remaining 4 would definitely not be united anymore. Yichun scanned the entire place coldly. His gaze was focused on the remaining dozen or so mid-stage soul formation cultivators. Anyone else who wants to leave? I'll give you a chance. It's not too late to scram now. An old man wearing a Taoist robe and holding a horsetail whisk stood out. Fellow Yi, I, Long Shuzi, am willing to leave. The Crimson Firmament sect doesn't care anymore. The Blue Thunder sect is willing to leave. And the Wind God sect. In just a few breaths of time, nearly 12 major sects in the Purple Firmament world expressed their willingness to leave. What a joke. Even the 3 late-stage soul formation cultivators had run away. Were they a group of mid-stage soul formation cultivators going to stay and wait for death? As for the punishment from the Immortal Palace, no one thought about it. No matter how severe the punishment was, it could not compare to death. Moreover, the late-stage soul formation cultivator who left last was right. It was unknown whether the Immortal Palace could survive Yichun's confrontation with the Immortal Palace today. Yichun did not stop them and allowed them to leave. His goal was to save Su Yuhan, not to kill. These people chose to leave wisely, saving him a lot of effort. In the end, only Hall Master Lei, who was a late-stage soul formation cultivator, and 3 mid-stage soul formation cultivators from the Immortal Palace were left on Tongtian Mountain. The situation had changed dramatically. Hall Master Lei and the 3 mid-stage soul formation cultivators from the Immortal Palace subconsciously gathered together. Their bodies could not help but tremble, and their expressions were extremely ugly, as if they were terrified. Someone wanted to escape, but he was stopped by the Patriarch of Hell and Yi Wushuang. The Patriarch of Hell chuckled and said, Where do you think you're going? Yichun walked toward the 4 of them step by step. In the end, his gaze landed on Hall Master Lei's nervous face, and a mocking smile appeared at the corner of his lips. I'm afraid you didn't expect this to happen, did you? End of this chapter. Chapter 1355. Plop. A mid-stage soul formation cultivator beside Hall Master Lei knelt before Yichun on the spot with an extremely terrified expression. Fellow Yi, spare me, spare me. We're under the orders of the Immortal Palace. We didn't mean to become enemies with you. As soon as he said that, the other 2 mid-stage soul formation cultivators knelt down one after another. They kowtowed like they were pounding garlic, their bodies trembling. Traitors, you 2 traitors. Seeing this, Hall Master Lei almost vomited blood. Aren't you afraid of being punished by the Immortal Palace? Yichun stared at him coldly. I'll give you a chance now. Kneel down and submit to me. Bring me to Su Yuhan, and I'll spare your life. Yi, just give up. Hall Master Lei sneered when he heard that. I admit that the Immortal Palace has underestimated you. However, if I want to leave, how will you stop me?" As soon as he finished speaking, his figure flashed. He raised his hand and tore open a crack. His figure dashed towards the crack at lightning speed. "Run!" At the same time, the three mid-stage soul formation cultivators kneeling on the ground spread out at the same time, wanting to take advantage of this opportunity to escape. Escape! Yi Chen's gaze turned cold. Then, he crossed his arms as if he was grabbing the stars and the moon. Boom! Following the loud bang, Hallmaster Lei was shocked to discover that the space he had torn open had closed. The other three soul formation cultivators also discovered that the space they were in had been forcefully sealed. Hallmaster Lei roared crazily, You can't kill me!" Universe collapsing lightning strike. Yi Chen's punch shocked the world, triggering tens of thousands of lightning bolts. Lightning appeared in the sky like the wrath of heaven descending, spanning thousands of meters. Bang! The three mid-stage soul formation cultivators were the first to be drowned by the terrifying lightning. Hallmaster Lei's pupils constricted violently as he frantically activated his protective spirit treasure. However, all of this was useless. His entire body was enveloped by the glow of lightning, and countless cracks surged out from his body, starting from his chest. It was like glass had shattered in half, and in the end, it exploded into countless fragments that vanished into thin air. Dead silence. The world suddenly fell into dead silence. Everyone stared blankly at this scene. Hallmaster Lei had set up a peerless killing array on Sky-Piercing Mountain and had the help of many soul formation stage cultivators. However, the final outcome was death. This person is too terrifying. Fortunately, we didn't attack him due to our low strength. Otherwise, the consequences could be imagined. Perhaps he really does have the ability to destroy the Immortal Palace. In an instant, the silence was broken by waves of gasps and uproars. Countless gazes blankly stared at the figure that was like a god descending to the mortal world. Yi Wushuang walked over slowly and looked at Yi Chen's rather pale face worriedly. "Brother, are you all right?" "I'm fine." Yi Chen took a deep breath in, and his gaze suddenly landed on the depths of Tongtian Mountain. "Let's go. It's time to meet the master of the Immortal Palace." At the peak of the Sky-Piercing Mountain, the vast heavenly palace was still as majestic as ever. Clouds and mist lingered around it, containing a supreme majesty. Countless figures with powerful auras shuttled back and forth, as though they were setting up the wedding venue. Whooshing sounds rose and fell. In the depths of the heavenly palace, two figures sat cross-legged. The space around them became incomparably distorted as they breathed. Qi Daolin, who was dressed in white, looked straight at the young man with evil aura. His eyes drooped as he muttered, defeated. "That trash, Hallmaster Lei, actually failed to kill this brat. I have to say, this brat is truly powerful." Qi Huang, who was opposite him, also had a somewhat solemn expression. 8 late-stage soul formation stage cultivators joined forces in a peerless killing array, yet 4 of them were actually killed by him. Why is this brat's clone technique so powerful? Qi Daolin's heart was slightly fearful as he said in a deep voice, the 2 clones actually maintain the same battle prowess as the main body. If he was a perfected soul formation stage cultivator, even if you and I joined forces, we probably wouldn't be able to. I've never heard of such a divinity before. Qi Huang's eyes narrowed slightly as a dark glint flashed across his deep eyes. Looks like this brat has an extraordinary secret. This brat came from the Celestial Burial Planet. The natives of the Celestial Burial Planet are merely a bunch of martial arts trash. Back then, when we invaded the Celestial Burial Planet, we were all killed or injured. How did he obtain the cultivation inheritance? His eyes flickered and he couldn't help but frown. Could it be that this brat was really a trap that the Celestial Burial Planet's heavenly Tao had foreseen the impending catastrophe? What should we do now? Qi Daolin interrupted his words. Hearing this, Qi Huang immediately laughed wickedly. His smile revealed a hint of coldness. Act according to the plan. It's time to prepare a big gift for him. Outside the palace of Tao Immortals, The bronze gate towered like a towering mountain. It was incomparably majestic and dazzling. At this moment, outside the bronze gate, there were countless cultivators of the palace of Tao Immortals. These people all held magic weapons in their hands as they looked at the sky with trepidation. Among them, there were cultivators of the Golden Core stage and cultivators of the early Soul Formation stage. Dong, dong, dong. Following a series of deep sounds that sounded like huge copper colliding with a large bell, a group of people with monstrous killing intent appeared in everyone's eyes. Following their appearance, the temperature in that area suddenly dropped, as if it had turned into an icy hell. This group of people was none other than Yi Chun and the rest. Kill! Before Yi Chun and the rest could speak, the many Immortal Palace cultivators guarding outside the bronze gate of the Immortal Palace charged over. Their eyes were filled with madness. "You're courting death." The Patriarch of Hell and Yi Wushuang shot out and took the initiative to meet the group of people. The Patriarch of Hell shouted, "Fellow Yi, leave these lackeys to us. Go and find him quickly." "All right." Yi Chun nodded lightly. Then his body flashed, and he shot into the bronze gate immediately. During that time, some cultivators who were not afraid of death were crushed into a bloody mist by his pressure before they could even get close to him. At the same time, his divine consciousness surged out in an attempt to envelop the area. However, what surprised him was that the arrangements inside the Immortal Palace could actually block divine consciousness, preventing his divine consciousness from enveloping too much. "Old Dog Chi of the Immortal Palace, Yi Chun has already killed his way to your doorstep. Are you still going to hide?" Yi Chun looked into the depths of the Immortal Palace. His voice, wrapped in powerful true origin energy, became incomparably mighty. It rumbled like thunder in the world. At the same time, in the boundless purple bamboo forest, a beautiful figure stood up in shock. Her beautiful eyes stared blankly out of the bamboo forest as she cried tears of joy. "It's Xiaochun. It's really Xiaochun. Xiaochun, I'm here." Su Yuhan shouted with all her might. However, no matter how hoarse she shouted, her voice could not pass through the bamboo forest in front of her. In the Immortal Palace, almost as soon as Yi Chun finished speaking, an old chuckle resounded in the air. "Ha, I have to say, I've really underestimated you. You were actually able to kill your way here unscathed." End of this chapter. Chapter 1356. Haha, I have to say, I've really underestimated you. You're actually able to kill your way here unscathed. As the voice fell, the void shattered. Two rays of dark light tore through the air from the depths of the heavenly palace and stopped 3,000 meters away from Yi Chun. The two figures were an old man and a young man. The old man on the left was dressed in white. His hair was black and white, and his face was as haggard as tree bark. His eyes were like a dark abyss that could captivate one's soul. On the other hand, the young man on the right was dressed in black. His face was extraordinarily handsome, but if one took a closer look, they would notice an evil smile at the corner of his lips from time to time. Who else could they be but Qi Daolin and Qi Huang? Yi Chun's gaze stopped on the two of them. Extreme killing intent surged in the depths of his eyes. However, his gaze paused when he glanced at Qi Huang. Perfected God transformation stage. His eyes flashed imperceptibly. Qi Huang had severed his arms back then and used a blood sacrifice to escape from him. Logically speaking, it would be very difficult for him to recover from his injuries in a short period of time. However, the former's complexion was quite good at the moment. What surprised him the most was that the former's cultivation base had also risen from intermediate stage God transformation stage to perfected God transformation stage. Thinking to this point, he seemed to have thought of something and immediately looked at Qi Daolin with a cold smile. As the saying goes, even a vicious tiger doesn't eat its cubs. "I didn't expect you to sit back and watch your son be possessed." Qi Daolin's eyes narrowed slightly as pain flashed through them. Then, he said, "Ever since we stepped onto the path of cultivation, we were destined to sever our ties with the mortal world and sever our emotions. It's just a son. We can have another one in the future." "In the future?" Yi Chun scoffed when he heard that. He no longer hid the killing intent in his body. "You have no future because all of you will die in my hands today. At this point, he could not help but take a deep breath in and said slowly, "Hand over my wife and brother, and I can give the two of you a dignified death." Shameless boasting. Chi Daolin sneered and was about to speak. However, he was interrupted by Chi Huang, who looked at Yi Chun and snickered. "Junior Yi, you're a lowly native from the celestial burial planet." Yi Chun's eyes turned slightly cold. "Who the hell are you?" Chi Huang wasn't angry at all. Instead, he chuckled and introduced himself. "You can call me Teacher Mu. Your woman, your brother, and that little girl were all captured by me." The killing intent on Yi Chen's body exploded as soon as he said that. He stared at the former coldly. "I swear that I'll extract your soul and burn your bones to ashes." "You're losing your cool already?" Master Mu sneered. "Don't you want to know why I kidnapped your woman, your brother, and that little girl named Qian?" Yi Chen suppressed his killing intent and glared at him coldly. Seeing this, Master Mu was even more satisfied. He chuckled and said, "I'm from a Ziwei Star Zone's Guangming sect, and I'm known as the Guangming sect's ancestor. Back then, we joined forces with the other sects in the Ziwei Star Zone to travel through the starry sky and descend upon your celestial burial planet." Yi Chen's pupils constricted when he heard that. He said coldly, "So you're Earth's enemy from the outer realm?" "Hee, that's right." Master Mu snickered. "Back then, we, the 8 peerless sects of Ziwei Star region, descended on Earth and tried to turn Earth into purgatory. Who would have thought that when we invaded Earth's world wall, we would discover that Earth had already given birth to the heavenly Tao? In order to stop us from descending, the heavenly Tao of Earth did not hesitate to violate its own great Tao and transform into a human to attack us." At this point, a hint of fear flashed through his eyes. "At that time, she killed all the peak powerhouses of the 8 sections. I only managed to survive by splitting my primordial spirit into the void at the critical moment." Yi Chen's eyes flickered when he heard that. It was similar to what he knew. The heavenly Tao of Earth had killed the powerhouses of the foreign enemies and died. Even so, the core forces of the 8 sects still descended on Earth. Following that, the Saints of Earth joined forces to counterattack, including the Saints of the East and the Gods of the West. In the end, both sides perished together. Unfortunately, the moment the heavenly Tao of Earth attacked, it was destined to perish. However, it was smart to seal the world wall again before it died, and even left itself a backup plan. Master Mu suddenly looked at him. "I believe you've guessed it. That child named Qian is a way out for the heavenly Tao. It's not an exaggeration to describe that girl as the incarnation of the heavenly Tao. If I'm not wrong, the heavenly Tao is the incarnation of the heavenly Tao." Yi Chan said with a cold smile. "After you luckily escaped from the heavenly Tao, you fell into this firmament purple world and were taken in by the immortal palace, right?" After saying that, he glanced at Chi Daolin. "That's right." Master Mu smiled faintly. "With the help of the immortal palace, I gradually recovered my cultivation base to full-stage soul formation." At this point, his voice suddenly became extremely sharp. "But I am unwilling. I used to be a cultivator of the void training stage. How can I stop at the spirit forming stage? How can I be trapped in this small, azure, purple world?" Yi Chen's eyes turned cold. "So you captured my wife?" "You guessed right." Master Mu snorted coldly. "I'm extremely good at deduction. In order to deduce the heavenly secrets of the incarnation of the heavenly Tao, I accidentally discovered that your wife was with the incarnation of the heavenly Tao." His eyes were filled with greed. "What excited me the most was that your wife actually has a pure Yin body. She's the best cauldron in the world. If I were to pluck her, I would definitely be able to step into void refinement. And your brother, he has the innate netherworld battle body. He's the most suitable existence to be refined into a puppet." A monstrous ferocity appeared between his brows. "At that time, I'll control the incarnation of the heavenly Tao and refine it into a world spirit fetus. It'll be enough to sweep through the Ziwei galaxy." As soon as he said that, Yi Chen could not help but be shocked. He had to admit that the former's idea was crazy. He actually wanted to refine the Earth's heavenly Tao into a world spirit fetus. "You're really a lunatic." He could not help but take a deep breath. "What a pity." Master Mu seemed to say regretfully, "It's a pity that your wife was already pregnant when she was captured by the immortal palace." What angered me was that the fetus in her womb suppressed the pure energy in your wife's body, preventing me from plucking it. Anger surged in his eyes. I could only wait for it to be born. Unfortunately, this little rascal is still not born. It's been 2 years. Man proposes, but God disposes. Yichen was relieved. He could not help but sneer. Thank you for telling me so much information. In return, I'll grant you the death penalty. Is that so? A strange expression suddenly appeared on Master Mu's face. Do you really think I'm so kind as to tell you so much? End of this chapter. Chapter 1357. After saying that, he waved his sleeve lightly. The space around him suddenly distorted. As the black fog surged, it was as if a blurry figure descended from the sky from the distorted space. The sudden scene caused Yi Chen's eyes to focus. Then he stared fixedly at the turbulent, distorted space. At the next moment, a foot slowly stepped out, revealing a frail and elderly figure. It was an old man with white hair. He wore a tattered Taoist robe, and his clothes were tattered. His body was wrapped in dense black chains, and his turbid eyes seemed to want to pierce through the sky. With the appearance of this person, it was as if a peerless divine sword had been unsheathed. The pressure was vast and mighty, shaking the surroundings and suppressing the void. Another perfected God transformation stage. At that moment, Yi Chun felt a hint of pressure from him, and his expression turned solemn. Including Qi Daolin and the other two, the old man who suddenly appeared was about to face 3 perfected God transformation stage cultivators. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At the same time, several streaks of green light shot over from afar, revealing the figures of the Patriarch of Hell, Yi Wu Shuang, Xiao He Yi Hai, Wu Lan, and the rest. Perfected God transformation stage. Sensing the pressure from Master Mu and the other two, even the Patriarch of Hell's expression could not help but turn grim. Old Senior, at that moment, Yi Hai and the rest behind, Yi Chen looked at the white-haired old man excitedly. There was joy in their eyes that they had not seen for a long time. Old man, it's me. Yi Hai subconsciously walked toward the white-haired old man quickly. Old man, how are you, Han, and the rest? Dad, don't go over. Yi Chen pulled it back at the right time and said, Is he the crazy priest on the ghost ship? Yes, that's him. Yi Hai nodded immediately and looked at the white-haired old man again. He shouted, Old Senior, I'm Yi Hai. Don't you recognize me? However, no matter how Yi Hai shouted, the white-haired old man seemed to not hear him. There was only endless killing intent in his eyes. So he's old Xian. Yi Chen took a good look at the white-haired old man as his eyes flickered. But why does he have such a terrifying cultivation base? There were too many things he didn't understand. Elder Xian had protected Su Yuhan and the others on the ghost ship to the ancient barren world. If he was a perfected soul formation cultivator, how could he have been captured? I guess you must be full of temptation right now, right? At that moment, Qi Daolin, who had been silent all this while, looked at Yi Chun and suddenly sneered. This is the escort of the ghost ship that you've been trying to find. He's also the one who escorted your wife to the ancient desolate realm safely. Since you're not far from death, Musher chuckled coldly. I can also tell you that the old man you speak of is one of the powerhouses of the Z-Way galaxy who invaded Earth back then. His real name is Xian Zong. At this point, he seemed to say mockingly, It's just that this old thing's primordial spirit was wiped out by the Earth's heavenly way back then. He became crazy and delirious, forgetting everything. He even went to protect the heavenly way's incarnation. We paid a great price to capture him and spent countless resources to finally refine him into the first puppet boy. Qi Daolin looked at Yi Chun wryly. He seemed to be mocking. Are you guys satisfied with this gift? Yi Chun slowly exhaled a mouthful of foul air. Even he didn't expect Elder Xian to be one of the top experts who invaded Earth back then. Old man, Wu Lan, and Yi Hai were heartbroken. To them, Elder Xian was their savior. Without him, they would have died in the hands of Shang Santian. Without him, it would have been even more impossible for them to pass through the black mist and reach the ancient barren world safely. How could the two of them not feel sad and sorrowful after hearing Elder Xian's fate? Yichen nodded lightly. You guys are so cruel. Qi Daolin's eyes turned slightly cold. Today, 3 of us at the great perfection of soul formation are here. Junior Yi, even if you're overflowing with talent and terrifying battle prowess, so what? Are you strong enough to fight against 3 perfected soul formation cultivators? Fellow Yi, this is troublesome. The Patriarch of Hell's expression changed slightly. He secretly sent a voice transmission to Yi Chun through divine consciousness. If 3 perfected soul formation cultivators join forces, you definitely won't be able to fight them with your strength. They only need to send 2 of them to hold you back. The remaining 1 can kill me and your parents. Yichen said nothing. His eyes were extremely determined. So what if there were 3 perfected soul formation cultivators? He had to save Su Yuhan and her son today, no matter what. At that moment, Master Mu smiled faintly. Junior Yi, you're just a native of the celestial burial planet, yet you're able to cultivate to such a level. It's enough to show that you're extraordinarily talented. With your talent, you're a genius that only appears once in 10,000 years, even in my Z-Way star zone. He looked at Yi Chun as if he was mocking him. If you're smart, you can serve me as your master and hand over all your secrets. We can spare your life. Yi Chun took a deep breath in and took a step forward. Divine light surged out of his body, and his voice was like thunder, fight. The Patriarch of Hell was moved by his aura. He hesitated for a moment before taking a step forward and laughing out loud. Forget it. Today, I'll give up my life to fight with you. Fight. Yi Wushuang took a step forward with a determined expression. Fight. Xiao Hei's eyes were blood red, and he did not hesitate. Fight, fight, fight. At the same time, Hall Master Bei Yun, Shi Qianhan, and the other remaining powerhouses of the ancient desolate realm stepped forward. Only the Patriarch of Green Spirit and the Heavenly Ghost Sex Patriarch hesitated. What can trash like you do? Qi Daolin laughed out loud as if he was disdainful. Other than the junior surnamed Yi, what difference is there between the rest of you and ants in our eyes? Right at that moment, a soft voice suddenly sounded in the air. What if I join you? This soft voice was neither loud nor soft, but it shook the surroundings. At that moment, a pair of silver lightning wings descended from the sky. It seemed to be a man, and it was accompanied by a monstrous, ferocious might. That figure was too terrifying. A pair of silver lightning pools shook the wind and clouds, and a pair of silver pupils seemed to be the origin of lightning. One could not help but close their eyes as blood flowed from the corner of their eyes. Ing. At that moment, Yi Chen's expression changed. He stared fixedly at the figure that had suddenly descended. Who else could it be but Ing? However, at that moment, the other party's transformation was too terrifying. It was so terrifying that Yi Chen almost could not recognize him. Perfected God transformation stage. Yi Chen could feel the pressure from him. At the same time, Qi Daolin and Master Mu's expressions gradually turned grim. There was deep fear in their eyes as they looked at Ing. Ing was bathed in lightning as he descended forcefully. He first smiled at Yi Chen before lifting his eyes to shoot into the air. He said in a loud voice, Yi Dongli, when are you going to show yourself? Chapter 1358. The immortal palace was as vast as a mountain, and the heavenly palace stood towering. Yi Dongli, what are you waiting for? Ying's eyes were like silver lightning. They were so dazzling that they directly pierced through the void. A monstrous ferocious might appeared on his body, directly scattering the endless clouds. Everyone's eyes suddenly looked into the depths of the void. Yi Dongli was here too? Wasn't he dead? The remaining powerhouses of the ancient desolate realm, such as Hall Master Northian, seemed to have heard something terrifying. Their eyes were filled with shock. Meanwhile, Qi Daolin and Mu Shi's expressions became more and more gloomy. Yi Chen's green robes fluttered as he looked at the void. Waves of light surged from the depths of his eyes. Yi Dongli, you're really not dead? Buzz, as the void trembled violently, a white-clothed figure that looked like a god slowly walked out from the depths of the trembling void. The figure's white clothes fluttered in the wind, and he was peerless. It was Yi Dongli. At this moment, heaven and earth seemed to freeze. Countless gazes gathered on Yi Dongli. There was shock, ecstasy, and even more disbelief. Emperor Dongli, Hall Master North Yun, and the others cried tears of joy. They could not believe that Yi Dongli, who they had regarded as a legend since they were young, had really revived and descended to the immortal palace. At that moment, Qi Daolin and Mu Shi's expressions were extremely gloomy. Even though the two of them were mentally prepared, their faces still turned ashen when they faced such a scene. Great perfection, God, transformation stage. It was also at that moment that Yi Chun could not help but narrow his eyes. He could sense an aura that was identical to Ying's from Yi Dongli. Both of them were at great perfection, God, transformation stage. Under everyone's gaze, Yi Dongli walked over slowly and smiled at Hall, Master North Yun, and the rest. Eventually, he landed less than 30 meters away from Yi Chun. His calm gaze met Yi Chun's quietly. In an instant, be it Yi Chun or Yi Dongli, they could feel the bloodline connection in each other's bodies. Even Yi Hai was no exception. You're very good. Yi Dongli looked at Yi Chun quietly for a few seconds. A smile that could intoxicate all living beings appeared on his calm face. There was admiration in his eyes, like a senior praising and appreciating a junior, but he did not put on any airs. After that, he slowly fixed his gaze on Qi Daolin and Mu Shi and said indifferently, I'm afraid you guys didn't expect this day to come, right? Under everyone's gaze, Qi Daolin smiled coldly. A cold light appeared in his eyes. Yi Dongli, I should have turned you into ashes back then. 10,000 years ago, Qi Daolin and Mu Shi, Qi Dao Palace, a disciple of the immortal Azan Palace as Yi Palace Master. Back then, when Yi Dongli attacked the Celestial Palace from the ancient barren world, it was Qi Daolin who suppressed him. However, he was too arrogant and didn't destroy Yi Dongli's body. Mu Yi, as Yi. Emperor, Mu Yi Mu. Yi. Yi. If saint, Yi Palace Yi. For Yi. If you hadn't schemed against me back then, Yi Dongli shook his head and looked at Mu Shi. Ancestor Guangming, I don't think you've had it easy either. Yi Dongli. Mu Shi's expression changed slightly as he snorted. You and I are both from the Ziwei sector. Why don't you join forces with me and kill these two? After that, as soon as he finished speaking, everyone, including Yi Chun, was shocked. Yi Dongli and Mu Shi were from the same world. Yi Chun could not help but glance at Yi Dongli. He narrowed his eyes, and the doubts in his heart dissipated. No wonder Yi Dongli was also a cultivator. No, you're different from me. Yi Dongli acted as if he did not notice the change in everyone's expressions. He continued to speak calmly. I arrived at the celestial burial planet earlier than all of you, and arrived at the ancient desolate realm earlier than all of you. Your goal is to plunder and invade, but my goal is to protect everything here. Fool! Mu Shi snorted and mocked. You're the genius of the Yi family in the Ziwei sector after all. How could you lower yourself to fall for a lowly woman from the lower realm? As he narrated, Yi Chun and the rest slowly understood the grudge from 10,000 years ago. 10,000 years ago, Earth did not suffer from the great calamity of the outer realm. To be precise, Earth was just an insignificant drop in the ocean in the vast galaxy. At that time, Yi Dongli was the genius of the Yi family in the Ziwei sector. He was forced by his family to marry someone else and had no choice but to leave. In order to avoid being captured by the Yi family, he had no choice but to flee to the Ziwei sector. By chance, he landed on Earth and actually fell in love with a woman from the ancient human race. However, the woman did not have the talent to cultivate. 100 years passed in a flash. Yi Dongli, who was injured while crossing worlds, could not stop the woman from dying of old age. In the end, Yi Dongli could only send the woman's soul into reincarnation and pay the price to use his divinity to deduce the place where the woman was about to be born. The place he deduced was the ancient desolate realm. Yi Dongli stepped into the ancient desolate realm and tried to wait for the birth of his beloved. Unexpectedly, something happened, causing the woman's soul to be taken away by the immortal palace before she could reincarnate. After that, it led to the matter of Yi Dongli killing his way into the immortal palace. Only Yi Dongli and a few other powerhouses of the older generation in the ancient desolate realm knew about this secret. Therefore, as juniors, the North Sea Hall Master and the rest did not know about it. After understanding what happened, the hostility in Yi Chen's eyes when he looked at Yi Dongli dissipated a lot. In that case, the Yi family must be the descendant of Yi Dongli and that woman back then. Seeing that Yi Dongli refused to budge, Master Mu's expression turned extremely ugly. He could not help but look at Ing again. Both Yi Dongli and Yi Chun have a deep grudge against us, but you don't. What's your purpose? That's right. Chi Daolin also looked at Ing and said, "You're a zombie, and you're destined to be tolerated by the secular world. If you're willing to bury the hatchet with us, you can share this world with us from today onwards." In an instant, everyone could not help but look at Ing. Yi Chun was no exception. Under everyone's gaze, Ing suddenly laughed. His laugh was wild and domineering. "I'm afraid you guys haven't figured out my identity. I'm the Emperor of China on Earth. You're a foreign enemy who once invaded my territory. You actually want me to cooperate with you. 1,000 years ago, I made this vow in front of the people of the world, in front of the ancient sages, in front of the gods, and in front of the billions of descendants." At this point, Ing laughed out loud. "As long as I am here, I will defend the land and open up the borders. I will sweep through the 4 barbarians and establish the foundation of my great Qin. When I die, I will transform into a dragon soul and protect Huaxia for all eternity. This oath is borne by the sun and moon, witnessed by heaven and earth, and heard by all immortals, devils, ghosts, and gods. I am the first emperor, and future generations will be numbered. 2 generations, 3 generations, and 10,000 generations will be passed down without end." End of chapter. Chapter 1360. His arrogant words resounded in the world. They were sonorous and powerful, shaking the surroundings. When they landed in everyone's minds, their hearts were shaken. Even Chi Daolin and Master Mu were stunned by this grand prophecy, and for a moment they were in a daze. In an instant, the world fell into a deathly silence. Yi Chen looked at Ing in a daze. His thunderous words echoed in his mind crazily. It seemed to have an extreme magical power that moved one's heart. This was the first time he had looked Ing in the eye. His state of mind was completely different from before. He was touched, delighted, and hot-blooded. A few seconds later, he took a deep breath in and could not help but laugh out loud. "Great! What a great Ing! What a great emperor! I was wrong about you previously." At this point, he suddenly bowed deeply to Ing. Not for anything else, just for the countless living beings on Earth, just for the hundreds of millions of Chinese men, just to pay their respects to this ancient emperor who had once unified China. After him, Yi Wushuang, Xiao He, Yi Hai Wulan, and the rest of the people from Earth all bowed deeply to Ing. Even the Patriarch of Hell was affected by his heroic oath. He could not help but let out a heavy sigh. "I can't compare to such an ancient emperor." Yi Dongli also clasped his fists at Ing. At the same time, Yi Chun clenched his fists tightly. A sharp aura shot into the sky from his body. "Both of you, let's fight. We'll sink this immortal palace today." The moment Yi Chun was done speaking, countless sharp auras shot into the clouds as well. They were like sharp swords that had been unsheathed. The fluctuation actually caused countless cracks to appear in the air. Subsequently, Yi Chun, Yi Dongli, and Ing shot into the sky. Yi Chun looked down at Chi Daolin and the other 2. "Cut the crap. You guys are courting death." Chi Daolin's eyes were filled with coldness and killing intent. "Do you really think the 2 of us are afraid of you? All right, I'll deal with you guys here today. Let's see who else dares to make the immortal palace their enemy." Patriarch Guangming, let me, Yi Dongli, experience the abilities of the Patriarch of Ziwei Star Zone's Guangming sect. Yi Dongli's white robes fluttered in the wind, shattering the void. In the blink of an eye, he dashed toward Mu Shi. With a calm look in his eyes, he slammed a massive palm down toward the ladder. "Junior, do you think you're worthy of attacking me?" Master Mu flew into a rage, and his face darkened. "Even the patriarch of the Yi family in the Ziwei galaxy has to show me some respect." His voice fell. A giant palm was formed in the empty space above his head. The giant palm was purplish gold in color and was 30 to 40 feet in size. Monstrous energy flickered on its surface as it shattered everything. Boom! Two powerful auras collided in the empty space, immediately causing the entire empty space to be torn into two. Frightening energy swept out like floodwaters, directly scattering the clouds in the sky. The terrifying might caused everyone's expression to change. It was too powerful. Under this kind of pressure, even a late-stage divine transformation cultivator's body would crumble on the spot. Blood trickled down the corner of Yi Dongli's lips, and he was knocked back heavily. Mushir wasn't in a good state either, and he was sent flying several hundred zhang away. They were on par. Everyone's heart shook when they saw this scene. Yi Dongli was actually on par with Master Mu. They were not the only ones. Even Qi Daolin, who was below, was shocked. Immediately after, he took a step forward, as if he wanted to help Master Mu. "Old dog, your opponent is me." Yi Chun let out a long roar. He stepped into the air and charged at Qi Daolin. His eyes were burning with golden flames, like divine flames that could burn all living things. Shameless boasting. Qi Daolin's eyes were filled with contempt. "You're only at the intermediate stage of soul formation. There's a difference of 2 levels between us, and the density of your true origin energy is worlds apart. What do you do to me?" After saying that, he took a step forward and charged at Yi Chun. "Dai!" Qi Daolin shouted angrily. Bai Kai moved and formed a seal with his hands. In an instant, 9 giant shadows appeared behind him. The aura of the 9 giant shadows was monstrous. They were like gods that had descended to the world. They charged at Yi Chun with terrifying killing intent. Yi Chun's entire body was glowing with golden divine light. He was like an indestructible golden body. He dove forward, and the shadow of his fist swept across heaven and earth. It was as if he was pushing a sun forward in the air. Rumble! The 2 auras were like tornadoes, setting off terrifying waves that caused the air to churn. They turned into 2 huge storms that collided crazily. "Leave the last person to me." Seeing that his opponents were robbed one after another, Ying's expression darkened slightly, as if he was unhappy. He could only look at Old Xian, who was on the ground. Old Xian's hollow eyes also looked at him. Boom! A bolt of lightning suddenly flashed through the air. Everyone felt that their eyes were extremely dazzling. When the lightning dissipated, Ying and Old Xian had already started fighting. In the endless void, a powerful figure was like a peerless demon god. He was as tall as the sky, and behind him was a pair of silver wings that covered the sky. As the wings flapped, lightning descended. Who else could it be but Ying? On the other hand, his opponent, Old Xian, was still staggering like an old man in his twilight years. However, every step he took contained Dao runes, and he was actually on par with Ying. At this moment, everyone's eyes were fixed on the void. In the depths of their eyes, there were only 6 terrifying, godlike figures. Too powerful. That was the only thought left in everyone's minds. Even the Patriarch of Hell and Yi Wushuang were no exception. "Stay here and protect them." The Patriarch of Hell suddenly looked at Yi Wushuang beside him and said, "I'll go search and see if I can find them." Yi Wushuang nodded solemnly. The Patriarch of Hell no longer hesitated. With a flash, he immediately rushed into the depths of the Immortal Palace. Hall Master North and the others followed him. "Everyone, split up and search. Inform me immediately if you find anything," the Patriarch of Hell ordered. Both sides were moving. Everyone knew very well that if they took the opportunity to find Su Yuhan first, Yi Chun would not have to fight Qi Daolin anymore. Yi Hai and Wu Lan, who was carrying Meng Meng, looked at Yi Chun, who was fighting Qi Daolin, nervously. Their hearts were in their throats. They were afraid to see Yi Chun injured. Thud! In the void, the first clash between Yi Chun and Qi Daolin caused the clouds to disperse. The void wailed as if the entire world was roaring. Yi Chen's clothes fluttered in the storm. Every attack carried a destructive aura. It was like a falling star that smashed at Qi Daolin. Divine fist created in 30 days, heaven-shaking stomp, heaven-shaking hammer, heaven-burning palm. At that moment, Yi Chen was like a supreme demon god that had descended to the world. There was only endless killing intent in his heart, as if he wanted to kill Qi Daolin completely. End of this chapter. Chapter 1361. Qi Daolin, didn't you say you want to kill me? Yi Chen's divinity was invincible. He launched all sorts of attacks at Qi Daolin in an extremely domineering manner. He did not give Qi Daolin a chance to catch his breath. Beatrice starred. Qi Daolin's face was livid. Initially, he thought that even though Yi Chen had the combat strength of a mastery stage god transformation stage, he was no match for him no matter what. He would definitely be able to kill Yi Chen within 10 moves. However, the reality was that Yi Chen was clearly only at the intermediate stage god transformation stage, but his true origin energy was extremely dense. He was no weaker than an ordinary perfected god transformation stage cultivator. Coupled with his freakish physical body and the endless 8 divinities, he was unable to withstand them. Triessence Void Refining Technique. At the critical moment, Qi Daolin roared and spat. Chaotic energy spat out from his mouth like a scorching sun, burning everything. At that moment, the chaotic energy grew larger and larger. Eventually, it rolled toward Yi Chen like a gigantic golden pill. The void melted wherever it passed. Heavenly River Drill. Yi Chen's white hair danced wildly as he hugged the air. Golden light surged. Under everyone's gazes, rivers appeared in the sky without anyone noticing. The sound of water surged and waves swept through heaven and earth. Roar! A dragon's roar sounded, and the rivers turned into several enormous water dragons at a speed visible to the naked eye. They waved their terrifying claws and charged at the scorching golden pill. Boom! At that moment, it was as if an extreme collision had occurred between heaven and earth. The earth shook, the mountains shook, the void collapsed, and heavy rain poured. Blurg! When the storm dissipated, Yi Chen staggered and retreated over 30 meters. He could not help but spit a mouthful of blood at the corner of his mouth, and his face was slightly pale. At the same time, Qi Daolin let out a blood-curdling scream. His body fell from the sky like a tattered sack, directly smashing a palace into dust. Xiaoqin, Yi Hai and Wu Lan's expressions changed when they saw that. They cried out subconsciously as if they wanted to charge into the sky, but Yi Wushuang stopped them. The rest of the spectators were only left with shock. It was too terrifying. Both Yi Chen and Qi Daolin were fighting with their lives on the line. Both of them were injured, but Yi Chen was able to fight Qi Daolin to such a state. Qi Daolin, Mu Shi, who was in the midst of exchanging blows with Yi Dongli, narrowed his eyes upon seeing this. Clearly, he didn't expect the two of them to reach such a state. How is this possible? Thinking to this point, Master Mu took a good look at Yi Chen. Extreme disbelief surged in his eyes. You must know that Qi Daolin is a perfected soul formation cultivator. He was not the only one. Even Yi Dongli and Ying were surprised. They did not expect Yi Chen's combat ability to be so terrifying. In the air, Yi Chen stared at the collapsed ground. He wiped the blood from the corner of his lips and snorted coldly. Qi Daolin, I know you're not dead. As his voice fell, an extremely resentful voice immediately came from the ruins on the ground. Junior, you really deserve to die. Boom! Following that, a disheveled figure with disheveled hair soared into the sky, as if he was hysterical. Everyone sucked in a cold breath when they saw it. At this moment, Qi Daolin's right arm was forcefully broken. His hair was completely burnt, and his body was caved in to the point that he did not look like a human. It was as if he had turned into a bloody man. Qi Daolin looked at Yi Chen with resentment and was almost roaring, I'm going to kill you. I must kill you. His voice was bone-chilling, making one's hair stand on end. He had not been injured for thousands of years. and it was such a serious injury. What infuriated him the most was that he had been beaten to such a state by a mid-stage soul formation cultivator. Ah! Chi Daolin screamed maniacally. A black divine spear suddenly shot out from his body. As soon as the black hair appeared, even Yi Dongli and Ying felt a bone-piercing chill. Yi Dongli's expression changed slightly as he stared at the black hair. Then he seemed to have thought of something and shouted immediately, "Yi Chun, this is the Immortal Palace's ultimate treasure, the Netherworld hair. It's said that it descended from outer space. It's very likely to be a broken immortal weapon." Hearing this, Ying's expression changed. Celestial artifact? A broken immortal weapon? That's right, Yi Dongli said in a deep voice. Although this item isn't a real immortal weapon, and its power isn't even a billionth of an immortal weapon, even a void refinement stage Almighty would be afraid of it. The reason why he recognized it was because there were many broken immortal weapons that fell from the spatial flow in the spatial rift of Ziwei Star, causing a lot of bloodshed. Damn it! At the same time, Mu Shi cursed to himself, this damned Chi Daolin. He actually hid this move and only used it now. At that moment, endless vital energy and blood surged into the Netherworld spear in Chi Daolin's body, and his face aged at a speed visible to the naked eye. Buzz! After absorbing his essence blood, the seemingly rusty long hair suddenly shook violently, after which a heart-palpitating and ice-cold aura gushed out. Under that aura, heaven and earth seemed to have been frozen. "Ha ha, go to hell!" Chi Daolin laughed maniacally. The Netherworld spear shot out at an indescribable speed, swallowing and spitting a monstrous cold gleam as it charged at Yi Chun. At the same time, Yi Chun's hair stood on end. It was a threat from a broken, immortal weapon. Break! At that moment, he let out a long roar and pushed his body to the limit. His entire body was immediately wrapped tightly by 10,000 rays of golden light, as if he was possessed by a god. Boom! Under everyone's gaze, the void was split into two. It was as if a heavenly river had swept across and drowned Yi Chun. In an instant, a mountain range was razed to the ground. Xiao Chun, big brother. Seeing this scene, countless cries of alarm rang out in the world at that moment. They seemed to be filled with grief and despair. What a pity! Yi Dongli looked lonely. Ying's eyes flickered, but he did not say a word. If the target of the Netherworld spear was him, he was not confident that he could withstand that attack. "Ha ha! Do you really think I can't kill you?" Chi Daolin coughed and laughed. Xiao Chen, Yi Hai, and Wu Lan almost fainted. Right at that moment, a voice that sounded like someone coughing blood suddenly sounded. "Unfortunately, your immortal weapon is extremely damaged, and your immortal energy has long since dissipated. You still can't kill me." This voice seemed to come from the depths of hell. It was so familiar. Yi Hai and Wu Lan cried tears of joy. It's Xiao Chun. Chi Daolin's body stiffened violently, and then he stared fixedly at the thin figure that slowly walked out from the underground ruins. Horror and disbelief immediately appeared on his face. Impossible. This is impossible. That was the Immortal Palace's treasure. It was rumored that it was an immortal weapon that descended from the outer realm. It possessed supreme divine power and might. "I'm sorry to disappoint you." Meeting his gaze, Yi Chun coughed blood and said, "You failed to kill me. I'll kill you next." If one took a closer look, they would discover that there was a fist-sized wound on his chest that was bleeding. It was healing at a terrifying speed. Chapter 1362. Xiao Chun isn't dead. Yi Hai and Wu Lan's expressions brightened up when they saw Yi Chun soar into the sky from the underground ruins. They could not help but be overjoyed. Emperor Yi is not dead. Fellow Yi is invincible. It was not just the two of them. Even the faces of the Patriarch of Green Spirit and the rest were filled with shock. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. At that moment, Yi Dongli and Ying Yi were extremely shocked. That was a broken immortal artifact. Even though it was broken, they could still feel its terrifying power. However, Yi Chun did not die from the attack of the broken immortal artifact. Instead, the injuries on his body were recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. This is impossible. This is impossible. Chi Daolin spat a mouthful of blood. He looked at Yi Chun, who was walking over from the sky, in shock. He was terrified to the extreme. Damn it, how did this happen? Master Mu, who was fighting Yi Dongli, could not believe what he was seeing. How can this brat's physical body be so powerful? Chi Daolin died. As the thunder exploded, it caused the 9 heavens to tremble. Yi Chen's divine fist was unparalleled. He took a step forward and did not give Chi Daolin any chance to catch his breath. Although the latter had used the broken immortal artifact to attack him, he had almost exhausted all his vital energy and blood to activate the broken immortal artifact. Roar! A dragon's roar broke through the sky. Yi Chen's fist seemed to be wrapped in golden divine dragons as it shattered the void. As he waved his fist, a terrifying pressure accompanied by monstrous, killing intent scattered the clouds. From afar, it looked like a peerless demon god had descended to the world. At that moment, Chi Daolin's expression changed drastically. He did not expect Yi Chun to still maintain his combat strength at this point. At the same time, he felt a hint of regret. If he had not listened to Master Mu's rotten idea to capture Su Yuhan, he might not be where he was today. However, the hatred between the two of them had already been formed. In addition, the arrow had to be fired. If he showed any signs of being weaker than Yi Chun, he might really die. A hint of madness flashed through Chi Daolin's eyes as he thought to this point. He growled and charged at Yi Chun. Immortal Palace's past martyr's spirituality assist me in killing this person. As his voice fell, the entire Immortal Palace shook. Then, a streak of red lightning shot out from a small world that had been opened up in the depths of the palace. The red lightning contained countless violent wills and auras. As it streaked across the sky, the entire space seemed to be dyed red with blood. In an instant, whether it was Yi Dongli, Ying, or Mu Shi, they all felt a terrifying aura from the red lightning. Chi Daolin stretched out his hand and directly grabbed the red lightning bolt. However, his figure became incomparably small under the huge lightning bolt. Yi Chun, be careful. When Yi Dongli saw this, his expression changed, and he immediately said, "This is the spiritual consciousness left behind by the previous masters of the Immortal Palace before they passed away. It possesses great terror." In reality, Yi Chun sensed it even without his reminder. He could not help but scoff. It's just the remnant demonic nature of a group of people who have died long ago. What can they do to me? As soon as he finished speaking, a golden brush suddenly shot out from his hand and pierced through the sky. It was the Emperor brush. Under the golden light that filled the sky, the aura on Yi Chen's body suddenly changed. He was like a supreme king who could judge all living beings in the world with a flick of his finger. Yi Chen held the Emperor brush in his hand. Using true origin energy as ink and the void as paper, the brush moved like a dragon and a snake, waving it energetically. The brush was huge, and the brush was silver. What's that? Many people were stunned when they saw the golden brush that Yi Chun suddenly took out. However, there was deep fear between their brows. Imperial aura. They could actually feel the imperial aura from the brush. At the same time, Mu Shi, who was fighting with Ying, stared at the Emperor brush as endless waves surged in his heart. Immortal artifact. This is an immortal artifact. His mind was buzzing nonstop. Yi Chen actually had an immortal artifact. Even though the immortal artifact was damaged to the point of being a little ugly and had lost all of its immortal energy, he could still recognize that it was an immortal artifact at a glance. When Yi Chen finished the last stroke, a huge golden word appeared in the air. Suppress. This series of actions was completed in an instant. When the brush landed, there was a phenomenon in the sky. Thick yellow airflow swarmed over from all directions on the entire Tongtian mountain. Then, it turned into a huge mountain that could cover the sky. The huge mountain soared through the sky with a monstrous momentum. The void shook as if the sky was about to collapse. Rumble. Chi Daolin held the red lightning and collided with the huge mountain. In an instant, it was as if the entire sky had turned into an endless fire domain. In the endless fire domain, A miserable and hysterical scream shook the heavens, like the wail of a ghost and the howl of a wolf. Immediately after, a hole was torn open in the fire domain, and Chi Dowling's sorry figure leaped out. Blurk! As soon as he appeared, he spat a mouthful of blood. His aura was extremely low. He glared at Yi Chun with extreme hatred and was about to escape. Yi Chun's eyes were cold. He glanced at Chi Dowling and shot out without saying anything. He had to kill this person. Trap. He held the emperor brush in his hand and wrote the word trap in the air. The word formed a formation, and heaven and earth surged and the sea of clouds churned. It formed a cage in the air, trapping Chi Dowling tightly. No matter how hard the latter tried to break it, he could not break it. What kind of method is this? At this moment, Chi Dowling's entire body had already been charred. He was no different from a dried corpse, and his eyes were filled with fear. Master Mu, why aren't you saving me? Thinking to this point, Chi Dowling could not help but shout in fear. If I die, you will definitely die too. In reality, there was no need for him to speak. Master Mu, who was far away, had already sensed it. However, Yi Dongli did not give him a chance. Scram! Master Mu was like a madman. Yi Dongli resisted his terrifying attack head-on, not giving him any chance to escape, even if he was injured. Chi Dowling, it's over. Yi Chun said softly, as if it was a death sentence. Chi Dowling could not help but despair. After knowing that he would definitely die, he could not help but roar crazily. Yi, even if I die, I will make you suffer. As soon as he finished speaking, he burned the life force and primordial spirit in his body crazily. Then a huge vortex suddenly appeared in the sky, as if it was being manipulated by a pair of invisible hands. The vortex grew larger and larger, directly enveloping Yi Chun. A terrifying, devouring power and teleportation power came from it. You want to teleport me away? Yi Chun could not help but focus when he saw that. End of this chapter. Chapter 1363. He immediately stopped hesitating. The emperor brush in his hand moved like dragons and snakes, instantly writing a golden word in the air. Dismantle. The huge golden word dismantle returned to the void. In an instant, waves of earth-shattering rumbles descended, and the huge vortex disappeared. Die. Yi Chun wrote another word in the air, pointing at Chi Dowling. As soon as the word die was said, Chi Dowling let out a blood-curdling scream. Then his flesh and primordial spirit began to melt at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the end, his body completely collapsed, and his primordial spirit disappeared as well. The dignified master of the immortal palace, a god who stood above the azure purple world and the ancient desolate realm, died on the spot. Chi Dowling died. Hall Master Chi has lived for tens of thousands of years and is known as the most ancient existence. Almost no one can compete with him. Now he's actually dead. An existence like an immortal god died, just like that. It's unbelievable. At this moment, everyone's expressions froze. Only their dull eyes stared quietly at the remaining figure in the air. Shock, ecstasy, disbelief. These complicated emotions flowed through everyone's hearts. Everyone was shocked. This was the end of an era. A king who looked down on all living beings had become the dust of history. It would definitely shock the world and be the best in the world. Amazing, Yi Dongli was also extremely shocked. An intermediate stage soul formation cultivator killing a perfection stage soul formation cultivator. Such an achievement has never happened, even in Ziwei Star Zone. Very good. Apart from being shocked, a trace of unconcealable battle intent appeared in his eyes. Mad Southern Yi, I want to fight you again more and more. At that moment, Mu Shi's expression was extremely ugly after he repelled Yi Dongli. It's too late. At this moment, he could not help but feel fear. Chi Dowling's death meant that Yi Chun could free up his hands to deal with him. If he worked together with Yi Dongli, how could he defeat them? What he was most afraid of was that Yi Chun had an immortal weapon. He was invincible. As soon as that thought flashed through his mind, he immediately sensed a cold gaze looking at him. Who else could it be other than Yi Chun? Master Mu's expression changed slightly. He took a deep breath and said, "Little friend ye, I'll hand over your wife and everyone related to you. Can we bury the hatchet?" It wasn't that he hadn't thought of escaping. However, the scene of Yi Chen's emperor brush setting up a trapping formation in the air shocked him. He was unwilling to use it unless he had no other choice. Yi Chen walked toward the former step by step as if he did not hear him. The killing intent on his body rose again. Upon seeing this, Musher couldn't help but fly into a rage. "You've already killed Qi Daolin. Why must you be so ruthless? I am the ancestor of the Z-Wei Galaxy's Guanyu sect. This old man has many supreme techniques, heaven-defying Taoist classics, and even countless cultivation secrets. If you are willing to let me go, this old man is willing to enjoy everything. In order to survive," he was almost eloquent. However, Yi Chen remained unmoved. He could not help but roar. "Don't you want to step into the void refinement stage? I was a void refinement almighty in my previous life, after all. I can guide you to break through." Yi Chen stopped in his tracks. Then he said mockingly, "I'm sorry, I don't care about a mere void refinement stage cultivator." At this point, his tone was as cold as hell. "Moreover, you dared to covet my woman. That's a capital crime." Boom! After saying that, his aura skyrocketed, as if he was possessed by an ancient demon lord, and he charged at the former. B*****. At that moment, Musher was enraged as well. Madness flashed across his eyes. "Since you don't want me to have an easy time, then give it a try." In an instant, a crack appeared between his brows. Then, a ray of dark light shot out and attacked Yi Chen like lightning. Possession. Yi Dongli's eyes narrowed when he saw that. Then he was shocked. He instantly realized Musher's wishful thinking. Clearly, Musher thought that he would not be able to survive under Yi Chen's and his combined attack. He decided to take the risk and try to possess Yi Chen. Even though the iron law of the cultivation world was that each cultivator could only possess once, Musher was a void refinement almighty. No one could guarantee that he did not have any strange tricks up his sleeve. Thinking to this point, a terrifying divine consciousness surged out from between his brows. He shouted sternly, "Come back." In his opinion, although Yi Chen had killed Qi Daolin, his divine consciousness was at most at the mid-stage of God transformation. On the other hand, Musher's divine consciousness was at the void refinement stage. In terms of the strength of his divine consciousness, Yi Chen could not compare to the latter. However, when his divine consciousness surged toward Musher's primordial spirit, it was as if he had pounced on an iron awl. It was extremely painful, and he could not help but retract his divine consciousness with a muffled groan. When he looked again, Musher's divine consciousness had already entered Yi Chen's mudball palace. It was extremely fast. Oh no! Yi Dongli's expression changed drastically. He rushed toward Yi Chen as if he was planning to save him. At the same time, after Musher's primordial spirit pierced into Yi Chen's mudball palace, he sneered sinisterly while searching for Yi Chen's primordial spirit. "Brat, you're still too inexperienced." It was just as Yi Dongli thought. He knew that he was no match for the two of them. So he took the risk to possess Yi Chen. A long time ago, he had obtained a method in the cultivation world that was similar to possession. As long as he devoured the other party's primordial spirit, he could control two bodies at the same time. By then, not only would he be able to control Yi Chen's body, but even Yi Chen's emperor brush and all the secrets in Yi Chen's mind would be his. However, when he sneered and searched for Yi Chen's primordial spirit in Yi Chen's mudball palace, a golden shadow suddenly descended from the sky. The golden shadow was wearing a dragon robe with rolling dragons on it and a flat crown on its head. It looked like a god, and an emperor's dragon might that ruled over the world pressed down from its body. Ah! Musher's primordial spirit screamed in pain. It felt as if it was being pricked by needles and fell. The emperor's might. This is the emperor's might. He trembled as he looked at the god shadow that was looking down at him with incomparable fear. Who exactly are you? The emperor's might that the figure contained made him unable to resist at all. It was something that he had never felt before. I'm the heavenly emperor. and I should suppress all enemies in the world. The golden god's shadow looked down at him with indifferent eyes. Its voice was like thunder, and the supreme emperor's might pressed down. Heavenly Emperor, Mushir cried out in shock. Why, you are the Heavenly Emperor. You're the Heavenly Emperor that is wanted by the upper realm. In an instant, his primordial spirit melted and turned into a wisp of extremely pure divine body energy that floated in the Mudball Palace. The golden figure opened its mouth slightly and directly swallowed the divine body energy, digesting it quickly. End of this chapter. Chapter 1364. Unwanted by the upper realm. Yichun digested Master Mu's memories crazily. It was as if he had been immobilized. He remained motionless, but his expression kept flickering. At the same time, he felt a chill in his heart. Through digesting the essence of Master Mu's primordial spirit, he learned that the reason Ziwei star region invaded Earthback then was said to be under the orders of the spirit realm. Only the leaders of the various sects knew about this order, and their purpose was to search for his whereabouts on Earth. In other words, his existence was most likely exposed. Those traitors from the immortal world probably found out that he was still alive. I see. Endless coldness surged in Yichun's heart as he thought to this point. You traitors really fear me like a tiger. Are you still planning to eliminate me after forcing me to such a state? Although this order was sent from the spirit realm was the existence closest to the immortal world. Many powerhouses from the spirit realm had also ascended to the immortal world. These people who ascended were probably under the orders of that traitorous disciple. Then, they sent decrees to the sects in the lower realm to search for him. Very well. Yichun closed his eyes and scoffed. You traitors, when I return to the 9 heavens, I'll personally send all of you to the immortal slaying platform. 1/each. Just as he was deep in thought, Yi Dongli rushed over and pointed a finger between his brows, as if he wanted to investigate. Meanwhile, the people in the distance could not help but feel their hearts sink when they saw that Yichun did not move at all. There was despair on their faces. At that moment, Yichun suddenly opened his eyes. His action shocked Yi Dongli. Don't panic, it's me. Yichun smiled lightly. Yi Dongli secretly heaved a sigh of relief and looked at him doubtfully. The patriarch of Guangming didn't succeed? That old thing is too smart for his own good. Yichun said with a mocking smile. If he fought me to the death, I probably wouldn't be able to kill him in a short period of time. His mistake was that he gave up his greatest support. His primordial spirit left his body and entered my Niwen palace, trying to possess me. At this point, he nodded slightly and made an excuse. Due to my cultivation method, my divine consciousness is countless times denser than people at the same level. In other words, Ancestor Guangming has disappeared. Hearing this, Yi Dongli was shocked, and he couldn't help but sigh. He was once a mighty void training cultivator. I didn't think he would end up like this. At the same time, Yihai Wulan and the rest who were waiting anxiously from afar immediately rushed over. Xiaochun, are you all right? Mom, Dad, I'm fine. Yichun gave them a comforting look. Boom! At that moment, a huge explosion sounded from afar. Yinglong had torn Elder Xian's arm apart. Elder Xian was about to take advantage of this opportunity to kill Yinglong. Yichun said immediately, Ying, don't kill him. Hearing this, Ying's body froze. He turned around and stared at him in confusion, as if he was displeased. This person has done a great favor for my Yi clan. I hope you can give me some face and treat it as me owing you a favor. Yichun said solemnly. He then took a step forward and landed in front of Elder Xian. The latter had already lost his mind and was about to attack him. However, because his injuries were too severe, he fainted on the ground after spitting a mouthful of blood. Yichun looked at him with a complicated expression. Subsequently, he sighed softly and formed seals with both hands. He planted countless formations and barriers in his body while he was unconscious to seal him. Don't worry. You've done a great favor for my Yi clan. I'll think of a way to help you recover. Yichun mumbled as if he was promising. Blurg. At that moment, he heard the sound of someone vomiting blood. Yi Dongli fell heavily to the ground. Scarlet blood flowed from the corner of his mouth, and his face aged at a speed visible to the naked eye. It was as if he was at the end of his life. Yi-Chen immediately flashed and helped him up when he saw that. The moment he placed his fingers on Yi Dongli's wrist, his expression changed. "Why is your body so complicated?" Yi-Chen looked at him with a serious expression. Only now did he realize that the vitality and essence in Yi Dongli's body were disappearing rapidly. His internal organs were also failing rapidly. Even if he channeled spiritual energy into Yi Dongli's body in an attempt to protect his life, it was useless. "There's no need to save me." Yi Dongli looked at him with a smile. "I'm someone who should have died a long time ago. The reason why I'm still alive is because I accidentally swallowed a miraculous medicine 10,000 years ago. It was also because of it that I've survived until now." 10,000 years ago, he charged into the immortal palace and was killed by Qi Daolin. Only his physical body remained. Everyone thought that he was dead, but they did not know that the miraculous medicine in his body was concealing everything. In reality, it was sealing his life force. That was also the reason why he suddenly came back to life. As he spoke, he had already turned from a handsome young man to an old man with white hair and a face full of wrinkles. "Child," Yi Dongli looked at Yi-Chen quietly. "Even if you don't want to admit it, you're still my descendant." Yi-Chen's lips moved slightly when he heard that. 10,000 years ago, I predicted that an earth-shattering figure would appear among my descendants. Yi Dongli's face did not show any fear of death at all. His gaze was very calm. "Therefore, I prepared countless guides for you. After seeing you, it also proved that my prediction back then was correct. Child, you're a person with great luck." At this point, Yi Dongli's body was covered in endless death energy. "You must have had many fortuitous encounters to be able to reach where you are today. However, the people in the cultivation world are vicious. Before I die, I'll give you a piece of advice. Being too emotional is your fatal flaw." Cough, cough, cough. Blood spurted from the corner of his mouth, and the blood wet his neck. It was a shocking sight, as if he did not have much strength to speak. "Do you have any other wishes?" Yi-Chen said sadly. No matter what, the Yi family was indeed Yi Dongli's descendant. It was also the person before him who had helped him at the critical moment. "Wish." Yi Dongli raised his head with all his might, trying to see the sky clearly. His eyes gradually darkened. "If you have the ability to leave Earth, please bring my ashes to Zue Star Zone and bury them beside my mother's grave. There's a parasol tree there." He could not help but think of a child who grew up in the Yi family 10,000 years ago. Because his mother was only a maidservant, he was bullied in the Yi family and experienced the coldness of human nature. He would never forget that the woman from the first branch regarded him and his mother as a thorn in her side. She chased them to the stable to sleep with the horses and keep them company. He would never forget that when he was 5 years old, his mother, who could not cultivate, had a high fever. In order to save him, she knelt in front of the woman from the first branch and begged for 3 days and 3 nights. In return, she told her to stay away from him. He could not forget that his mother had sneaked into the pill chamber to steal medicinal pills for him. However, she was beaten to death by that woman as a spy. Later on, the young man was tested to have a heaven spiritual root during the family test. It shook the Yi family and Ziwei Star Zone. He enjoyed the highest treatment and everyone's fearful and flattering gazes. The honor was so terrifying that he, who had stepped in a foundation building at the age of 16, killed that woman. In exchange, he was reprimanded by his father, whom he had never met. As the sun set, Yi Dongli's hand fell heavily. However, his eyes were still looking at the sky. Beyond the sky, there was an existence that he dreamed of. The corners of Yi-Chen's eyes were slightly moist. He bowed to him solemnly and hugged him gently. "Ancestor, have a safe journey." Yi-Hai cried. The remaining emperor's throne powerhouses from the ancient desolate realm knelt on one knee. Tears fell like rain as they said in a tragic voice, "Send off the East, Li Emperor." Ying's expression was calm. Occasionally, she would look at Yi Dongli's body with a hint of respect. Swoosh! At that moment, several figures flew over from afar. It was the Patriarch of Hell and the rest. The Patriarch of Hell, was surprised by the speed at which the battle ended. He only looked at Yi Dongli's body after seeing that Yi Chun was fine. Have a safe journey. He cupped his fist slightly. He then looked at Yi Chun and said in disappointment, "Fellow Yi, I've turned the immortal palace upside down, but I still can't find her." Yi Chun's eyes could not help but heat up when he heard that. He took a deep breath in and said, "I know where Yu Han is locked up." End of this chapter. Chapter 1365. In the immortal palace in the purple bamboo forest. This was a small world created by the immortal palace's almighty in the past. It was usually the place where the palace masters cultivated in seclusion. Later on, it was used by Qi Daolin to imprison important people. The scenery here was extremely exquisite and beautiful. There was an azure lake that was as warm as jade. In the endless bamboo forest, the spiritual energy was so dense that it was almost liquefied. On a pine tree that protruded from a cliff in the forest, there was a beautiful figure trying her best to raise her eyes, as if she wanted to see the outside world clearly. "Yi Chun, how are you guys?" At that moment, Su Yuhan was no longer as sad as before. There was only worry and anxiety on her beautiful face. She knew that Yi Chun was here. She really wanted to break the formation and see Yi Chun. She wanted to know how the battle between Yi Chun and the Immortal Palace was going. However, the remaining formation forcefully trapped her within, preventing her from leaving the purple bamboo forest. Su Yuhan placed her right hand on her mouth and coughed continuously. "Why is there no movement? Why can't I see anything? I can't hear anything." Because of the formation, she could not even hear the slightest movement. If one took a closer look, they would notice that there was a shocking pool of blood on her right palm after she coughed. "Yi Chun, nothing can happen to you." Su Yuhan gritted her teeth as her shoulders trembled uncontrollably. The worry in her eyes grew stronger as countless possibilities flashed through her mind. If anything happened to Yi Chun to save her, she would not be able to accept it because it would be more painful than dying herself. At that moment, the bamboo forest in front of her actually retreated to both sides, gradually opening up a path for people to pass through. In an instant, Su Yuhan's face turned extremely pale. She was close to despair. Did something happen to Yi Chun? She could not be blamed for thinking that way. Every time Qi Huang, Qi Daolin, and the rest came, the formation would fluctuate the same way as now. "Yi Chun, if anything happens to you," Su Yuhan's body trembled slightly. After taking a deep breath in, her expression was extremely determined. "Then I'll go down to accompany you. We didn't spend much time together when we were alive, so we should be able to stay together after death." She stared at the end of the path that suddenly appeared, ready to commit suicide at any time. At that moment, a crisp voice faintly came from the end of the secluded path. "Daddy, is Mommy inside?" Su Yuhan's body froze. Before she could react, a mature voice came into her ears again. "That's right, I'm inside. Since when did I lie to you?" "Then let's hurry up. Don't let Mom wait too long." The melodious voice from before resounded once more, and it faintly carried a sense of urgency and unconcealable longing. Su Yuhan did not move at all. Her glass-like eyes widened bit by bit at that moment. In her eyes, she saw two figures slowly walking over from the end of the quiet path. The leader was a little girl in a white dress. The little girl looked to be about 5 or 6 years old. She looked like she was carved from jade and looked very cute. However, at this moment, the little fellow quickly rushed to the front. As he ran, he looked into the distance with his black eyes and said, "Mommy, where are you? Meng Meng and Daddy are here to pick you up." The little girl was running in a hurry. She staggered and fell hard onto the ground. Su Yuhan wanted to help her up by instinct, but she saw a skinny silhouette coming from behind the little girl. The latter helped the little girl up and patted the dust on her as he squatted down. "Did you fall?" "I'm fine." The little girl shook her head and ran deep into the bamboo forest again. Her big black eyes were filled with anticipation. "Meng Meng, my daughter." At that moment, Su Yuhan's heart skipped a beat as she looked at the little body that was taller than she remembered. There was disbelief on her pale face. "Mommy." Subsequently, an extremely excited voice came into her ears again. Subsequently, she felt a little body leaping into her embrace. The little girl hugged her thigh tightly as tears flowed down her cheeks. "Mommy, I finally see you. I miss you so much." The voice that had appeared in Su Yuhan's dreams countless times completely shattered her heart. She could not help but squat down and hug the little girl tightly. She cried out involuntarily. The endless longing that had accumulated was like a flood that had broken a dam. At that moment, it was as if only the mother and daughter were left in the world. Yichen watched the scene quietly. As he looked at the figure that haunted him, there was unconcealable excitement on his calm face. After the mother and daughter in front of him separated, he took a deep breath in and took a step forward. He knelt on one knee and placed one hand on his chest. He looked at the former and said in a trembling voice, "Your Majesty, your most loyal knight is here to bring you home." At that moment, rain started to fall from the sky above the purple bamboo forest, as if it was a silent celebration for the reunion of the family of three. Su Yuhan looked at the figure in front of her stiffly. She had thought about that familiar face for countless days and nights. However, when he really appeared before her, she could not help but be in a daze. She felt that everything was unreal, like a dream. She looked at the face before her in a daze as she thought to this point. She said in a trembling voice, "Yichun, is that really you?" She could not help but extend her slender hand after saying that. She wanted to touch that face gently, but when her hand had just stretched out halfway, she forcefully stopped, because she was deeply afraid that all of this was just an illusion that would shatter at the moment of contact. Yichun felt a stabbing pain in his heart for no reason as he looked at her extremely nervous gaze. Su Yuhan's expression was also a sign of extreme desire. Therefore, he could not help but take a deep breath in. He stretched out his hand and gently held the soft hand before placing on his face. "Yuhan, it's me." He stared blankly at the face that haunted him, and his throat moved as he said, "I'm here to bring you home, my heavenly emperor." He felt the warmth in his hand. Together with the words, "Heavenly Emperor," Su Yuhan finally confirmed Yi Chen's identity because the Heavenly Emperor was what Yi Chen had called her in private. It was a secret between the two of them. The line of defense in her heart was completely broken. She covered her mouth with her hand, and dense tears immediately poured out of her beautiful eyes that made all living beings lose color. Subsequently, she threw herself into his embrace and cried tears of joy. "It's really you, Yi Chen." End of this chapter. Chapter 1366. In the distance, more than 10 figures appeared out of nowhere. They looked at the two people in the rain quietly, as well as the sensible little girl who was guarding by the side. These people were the Patriarch of Hell and the rest. The Patriarch of Hell looked at the two people in the rain with a complicated expression. Then he turned around and said to Hall Master Bei Yun, "Ing, and the rest, leave. Give them some time." Hall Master Bei Yun and the rest nodded slightly before disappearing without saying a word. It was as if they could not bear to disturb this hard-earned reunion. No matter how excited Yi Hai and Wu Lan were, they suppressed their emotions and left in the end. They did not want to disturb Yi Chun and Wu Lan. The reason being, they knew very well that the two children were the ones who suffered the most from this separation. In the end, even the Patriarch of Hell left. The rain in the sky was getting heavier, but the two figures leaned against each other in the rain as if they were frozen. After some time, Yichen reached out and caressed Su Yuhan's face gently. He said guiltily, "I'm sorry I'm late. I've made you suffer." He could not help but feel heartache when he saw Su Yuhan's slightly aged face and the 3,000 strands of hair that had long turned white. Just like the last time, this woman had suffered a lot just to wait for him. Su Yuhan gritted her teeth and shook her head while smiling. She then held Yi Chen's hand and placed it on her towering abdomen. She said softly, "Yi Chen, look, our child." She could not help but frown when she said that. She could not help but grunt. "Your good son kicked me again. Looks like he knows that you, his father, are here to save him. Our son." Yi Chen looked at her towering abdomen quietly. The familiar feeling that came from the depths of his bloodline, the blood that was as thick as water, surged into his heart, causing his heart to tremble violently. This was Yi Chen's second child, and it was a baby. At that moment, Meng Meng, who was standing obediently at the side, could not help but walk over. She stared at Su Yuhan's abdomen with her black eyes wide open. "Mommy, I have a brother?" "Yes, you have a brother." Su Yuhan smiled warmly and hugged him. The little fellow struggled free and placed his ear on her stomach, looking as if he was concentrating on something. Su Yuhan snickered upon seeing that. She then looked at Yi Chun and said, "Yi Chun, why don't you name our son? There's no need to rush the name." Yi Chun shook his head and held her hand tightly. He said while smiling, "Come with me to meet my parents first. They won't wait too long." Within the resplendent and magnificent hall, there were richly ornamented beams and painted rafters, and the spiritual energy was like mist, causing one to feel relaxed and happy. This place was originally the Immortal Palace's discussion hall, but following the deaths of Qi Daolin and the others, most of the Immortal Palace's people either died or fled, so Yi Chun used this place as a temporary shelter. "Dad, Mom." Su Yuhan rejected Yi Chun's help. She forced herself to kneel hard before Yi Hai and Wu Lan as tears rolled down her cheeks. Get up, get up." Wu Lan was already sobbing uncontrollably. She helped her up and hugged her tightly, saying, "Child, you've cried. It's our Yi family that has let you down." Beside him, Yi Hai's eyes were also red. Wu Lan was right. The Yi family owed Su Yuhan too much. A woman had waited for Yi Chun twice in a row. No one could imagine how much pain she had to endure. After Su Yuhan separated from Wu Lan, she lifted her head to look at the black-clothed young man standing at the side. Patriarch? Before she was brought to the ancient desolate realm by old Xian, the Patriarch of Hell was in closed-door cultivation in the old forest in the northeast. Therefore, she did not know that the Patriarch of Hell had taken over the body of a human. However, based on their past familiarity, she still recognized him at a glance. The young man with a mischievous smile on his face was the Patriarch of Hell. "Miss Su, you're really smart. You actually recognized me at first glance." The Patriarch of Yellow Spring was extremely surprised. However, when his gaze landed on Su Yuhan's white hair, he could not help but sigh softly to himself. Wu Shuang. When Su Yuhan's gaze landed on Yi Wu Shuang, her beautiful eyes could not help but light up. She took a few steps forward and caressed his shoulder. "My Wu Shuang is getting more and more handsome. Do you have a girlfriend?" "Sister-in-law." A hint of embarrassment flashed across Yi Wu Shuang's cold face. His shy look surprised the rest. It was their first time seeing Yi Wu Shuang act like that. "Mistress." Xiaohei, who was also a black-clothed young man like the Patriarch, knelt on one knee before her with an extremely respectful expression. "You are..." Su Yuhan was slightly stunned. Then, she seemed to have recalled something and could not help but widen her beautiful eyes. "Xiaohei, it's me, mistress." Xiaohei scratched his head and smiled honestly. "You guys have changed too much." Su Yuhan sighed internally as she looked at the unfamiliar faces next to Yi Chun. Then, she spat a mouthful of blood and fell heavily to the ground. The sudden scene caused everyone's expression to change drastically. Yi Chun reacted quickly and pulled her into his embrace. Yi Hai and Wu Lan looked at Yi Chun worriedly. "Xiaochen, what's wrong with Yuan?" "Mommy," Meng Meng cried on the spot. "I'm fine. Wait for me." Yi Chun smiled lightly and gave the Patriarch of Hell a look. He carried Su Yuhan into the secret chamber immediately. Yi Hai and the rest could only stay where they were, their faces filled with worry. In the secret chamber, Yi Chun sat cross-legged before Su Yuhan. At that moment, Su Yuhan's face was as pale as a sheet. Her body was extremely weak, and there was a faint aura of death spreading from her body. Yi Chun's expression was extremely serious. He then took a deep breath in and waved his sleeve. He took out many spirit stones from his storage ring and channeled them into Su Yuhan's body. After Su Yuhan looked much better, he took out the remaining bottle of longevity pills and fed Su Yuhan 3 of them. He had refined the longevity pills previously. Due to the limited materials, each pill could only increase one's lifespan by 5 years. 3 pills would increase one's lifespan by 15 years. However, even after Su Yuhan consumed all 3 longevity pills, the aura of death on her body did not weaken at all. Instead, it became more and more serious. At this time, Patriarch Yellow Spring's sigh came from afar. Miss Sue's vitality and lifespan are almost exhausted. If it weren't for her great talent and entering the nascent soul realm, I'm afraid she wouldn't have lasted until you came. At this point, he sighed again. Also, during her pregnancy, the fetus indirectly lowered her physique and even absorbed a portion of her vitality. If it's just vitality, it wouldn't be so troublesome. Yichen could not help but force a smile when he heard that. It's mainly because Yuhan has developed a resistance to the medicine. Ms. Su has consumed the longevity pill before. The Patriarch of Hell's expression changed when he heard that cultivators can only consume the longevity pill 3 times in their lives. Once they consume too many, it won't work anymore. This is the iron law of cultivation. End of this chapter. Chapter 1367. Yichen was speechless as he looked at the unconscious Su Yuhan quietly. His heart ached. Silly girl, why are you wasting your lifespan and life force? Patriarch Yellow Spring was right. Although cultivators could extend their lifespan with the help of pills, they had no other choice. This was because a cultivator could only take 3 life-extending elixirs in their lifetime. After that, no matter how many life-extending elixirs there were, they would no longer have any effect. As the saying goes, the heavenly Tao is merciless. If a person could infinitely increase his lifespan with the help of a longevity elixir, why would cultivators need to become stronger and strive to break through new realms to increase their lifespan? If that was really the case, a mortal could also borrow the help of longevity pills to achieve immortality. However, the prerequisite was that he did not make enemies with others. This was the iron law of cultivation. The Patriarch of Hell seemed to be unable to bear to look at Su Yuhan. He moved his lips slightly and said, "Fellow Yi, there's only one way now. Let Yuhan become a soul formation cultivator." Yi Chan sighed softly. Apart from getting Yuhan to enter the God transformation stage now, only then can she replenish the vitality and lifespan in her body. But Patriarch Netherworld smiled bitterly and said, "Miss Su is only at the early stage of nascent soul now. It's not easy for her to step into the soul formation stage. No matter how talented she is, she can't do it in her limited life." Although he did not check her body condition, he could tell from the aura of death on her face that she had a year left at most. 1 year. Yuhan only has 1 year left. Yichen shook his head, feeling extremely pressured. Since longevity pills were useless, he could only break through to a higher realm to increase his lifespan. Unless he could recover his cultivation base of a human immortal, he could use his immortal core to perform the divine ability, the Qi life extending spell, to forcefully extend Su Yuhan's life. Of course, the celestial pills from the immortal world could achieve this as well. However, it wasn't realistic in the end. Even he did not have absolute confidence that she could advance from early-stage nascent soul to soul formation within a year. Otherwise, there wouldn't have been so many nascent soul cultivators who were stuck at the threshold of the soul formation stage and eventually passed away helplessly. Time passed quickly. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. During those 3 days, Yichen stayed in the secret room and channeled spiritual power into Su Yuhan's body almost nonstop. During this period of time, after the spiritual stones were used up, he had no choice but to ask Forefather Yellow Spring to pay a visit to the 4 great regions of the Azure Purple world. No matter which sect they were from, they had to respectfully offer the spiritual stones to him. The news of Yi Chun killing the master of the Immortal Palace, Qi Daolin, had already spread. The entire vast purple world was shocked to the point that their scalps went numb. In particular, many forces who had attacked Yi Chun before were trembling with fear. Under such circumstances, all the major forces were living in Yi Chun's shadow. They were trying to be wiped out by Yi Chun. Therefore, there was no reason to reject the Patriarch of Hell's request. Throughout the 3 days, Su Yuhan's body finally took a turn for the better, and her complexion gradually recovered. On the afternoon of the 3rd day, she woke up from her coma. When she opened her eyes and saw Yi Chun, who looked exhausted, her eyes could not help but redden. "Yi Chun, I'm fine." Yi Chun secretly sighed, but he said while smiling, You should rest well now. Leave everything to me. I know my own situation. However, Su Yuhan revealed an extremely strong smile. You don't have to care about my feelings, really. Yi Chun immediately covered her lips and said softly, Yuhan, trust me. I'll think of a way to get you to God transformation within a year. All right. Su Yuhan revealed a happy smile when she met his firm gaze. Then, she rested her head on his shoulder and fell asleep again. Yi Chun placed her on the bed and covered her with a blanket. He turned around and walked out. As soon as he opened the door, he saw Yi Hai and Wu Lan walking up to him nervously. Xiao Chun, how's Yuhan? Don't worry, she's fine. Yi Chun smiled lightly and made way for his parents to take care of Su Yuhan. However, there was a hint of sadness in the depths of his eyes. Brother, sister-in-law's condition. Yi Wuxuang walked over and hesitated. How could he not tell that Su Yuhan's condition was terrible? 1 year. She only has 1 year left. Yi Chun heaved a sigh of relief. Yi Wuxuang's eyes dimmed when he heard that, if we return to the immortal world, we can save sister-in-law with the immortal pill. Before he could finish, he shook his head. Return to the immortal world? How could it be that easy? Even a Mahayana Almighty, who is known as the #1 person below true immortals, could not step into the immortal world without feeling the power of the immortal world. Yi Chen's eyes turned slightly cold. He then looked at Yi Wuxuang and said, I'm afraid you don't know this. I found out from Master Mu's memory that the people who invaded Earth in Ziwei Star Zone received a secret order from the spirit world. Spirit world? Yi Wuxuang was stunned at first. Then, he seemed to have thought of something, and his expression changed slightly. Brother, are you saying that the traders in the immortal world know where we are? At this point, he could not help but frown. But Ziwei Star Zone invaded Earth thousands of years ago. Brother wasn't even born back then, nor did he go to the immortal world. It doesn't make sense. That's what I don't understand. Yi Chun nodded lightly and said, After all, it involves karma and space-time. Perhaps karma and space-time have been reversed and messed up. After all, you know that the space-time on Earth is different from the cultivation world and the immortal world. There was something else that he did not say. Back then, he was brought to the cultivation world after he was drowned by the Su family and found the immortal drift bottle at the bottom of the river. How could there be a treasure like the immortal drift bottle on Earth? He had studied the immortal drift bottle countless times in the immortal world, but he could not figure it out. He only knew that although the immortal drift bottle was not a magic tool, a spirit tool, or an immortal tool, it was above immortal tools. At the same time, he could not help but find out from Master Mu's memory that Master Mu had speculated that he, Yi Chun, was a backup plan left behind by the Earth's heavenly Tao before it died. Could it be that the Earth's heavenly Tao arranged for me to go to the cultivation world, including the immortal drift bottle? Yi Chun could not help but break out in cold sweat as he thought to this point. It seems like it's time to find Qian and my brother. If it was really the heavenly Tao's doing, did it not mean that he, Yi Chun, was a chess piece of the Earth's heavenly Tao? What would be waiting for him in the future? After saying that, he immediately got Yi Wuxuang to guard the entrance of the immortal palace's core while he stepped into the immortal world's core alone. He found out from Master Mu's memory that Qian and his brother were imprisoned in the immortal palace's core. He had been busy healing Su Yuhan in the past 3 days, so he did not have the time to think about that. However, he had to reevaluate Qian now. End of this chapter. Chapter 1368. In the hinterland of Tongtian Mountain, there was an extremely low-lying area. This place was known as the Broken Soul Ridge, and it was covered in thick death energy and yin energy all year round. From time to time, there would be screams, so even the original members of the Immortal Palace did not dare to step into this place. However, the people of the world did not know that this place was actually used by the Immortal Palace to imprison mortals. Anyone who resisted the Immortal Palace or committed a heinous crime within the Immortal Palace would be imprisoned here. There is not even a trace of spiritual energy in the Broken Soul Ridge. Even a soul formation cultivator would turn into a pile of bones after being imprisoned here for a long time. In the prison that had a formation set up, there were extremely withered and old figures lying there. Among them were the upper echelons of the various sects in the purple world, as well as the leaders of the sects or the patriarchs of the clans. The figures did not cry out, nor did they resist. There was only despair, numbness, and decay. Right at this moment, a clear and melodious sound resounded from outside the prison cell. Kacha! At that moment, many people who were still alive in the prison subconsciously raised their heads and saw a thin young man in green slowly walk in. With just a glance, most of them lowered their heads again. In their opinion, the Immortal Palace must have sent someone to send one of them on their way. After thousands of years, most of them were used to seeing life and death. They seemed to be used to such a scene. The prison was shrouded in a stench and filthy aura. Yichen entered with his hands behind his back. He frowned slightly and looked at everything expressionlessly. His gaze swept past the ragged, skinny, and weak figures in the cages. When his gaze swept over, he was met with numbness, hatred, and even grimacing expressions. Qian is in room number 1. Yichun sped up and walked towards the end of the prison. At that moment, he heard a chuckle. "Little brother, you look unfamiliar. You just entered the Immortal Palace, right?" Yichen could not help but look over upon hearing that. He saw an old man with long hair and a black robe sitting in the last cage on the left at the end of the corridor. The old man's body was filled with evil energy. At that moment, he was grinning at Yichun. There was a faint, terrifying, evil aura on him. When the prisoners around him saw that he was the one who spoke, they subconsciously moved to the side with fear and wariness in their eyes. Because this person was extremely strange. No one knew how long he had been locked up. All they knew was that he was the first to be locked up. Everyone else had died, but he was still alive. The strangest thing about this person was that he knew how to tempt people. One moment, he said that he was the reincarnation of an immortal venerable and that he knew immortal arts. The next moment, he said that he had a cultivation technique that could lead to immortality. Over the years, it was unknown how many waves of disciples guarding the heavenly prison had changed. Among them were soul formation cultivators and nascent soul cultivators, but they were all dead. After listening to this person's words, some of the disciples who were guarding the place started to cultivate the cultivation method that he taught them, causing them to suffer from chi deviation or to be burned by the true fire. In the end, they died. Yichen suddenly stopped walking. The black-clothed old man's eyes lit up, and he immediately said, "Little brother, I guess correctly, right? From your young age, it seems like you were a young disciple that just entered Immortal Palace." The black-clothed old man chattered on. "I also guess that you were definitely not liked by the higher-ups, or that you offended someone. That's why you were sent here to guard the heavenly prison." Yichen's eyes flickered as he looked at him. He said with a forced smile, "Are you so sure that I'm from the Immortal Palace?" "Of course." The black-clothed old man could not help but sigh softly. He looked at Yichun with utmost sincerity. "Little brother, you're unlucky. This heavenly prison isn't a good place. It gathers death, energy, and resentment. Moreover, the people locked up there are all heinous people. Many people in the other prisons secretly shook their heads when they heard that. Their gazes at Yichun became mischievous and sympathetic. They didn't know how many times they had heard this kind of conversation. This old fellow from Earth Prison Number 1 was going to trick people again. As expected, before Yichun could speak, he said again, "Little brother, look at me. I'm locked up here, and I'm not far from death. This person wants to find a successor for himself before he dies. Even if he dies, he can die with a smile." He could not help but look at Yichun sincerely as he said to this point, "I think you're a good person, little brother. I might as well pass on my mantle to you before I die. I wonder if you're willing?" Yichun smiled. "What can you teach me?" "There's a lot." The black-clothed old man was overjoyed when he heard that. He said as if he was counting his family treasures, "I've roamed the world for thousands of years and met countless great figures. I know all sorts of immortal blessings, rare fruits, and innumerable spells." He paused for a moment and said, "I have a set of great Taotime method here. It can devour the energy of the heavens to strengthen oneself. When one cultivates it to mastery, one can devour the heavens, devour the earth, and devour everything, He stared at Yi Chun without blinking when he said that. He continued after seeing that the latter did not react at all. I also have a set of leg techniques that can crush heaven and earth. It's called the heavenly crippling leg. You only need to chop off one of your legs to cultivate it to mastery. Seeing that Yi Chun had not discovered anything, he seemed to be a little anxious and said, "If you don't like it? All right, I also have a set of sunflower book here. When one cultivates it to the 9th level, one can transform into the rising sun to compete with the heavens. However, if one wants to cultivate this technique, one must first castrate oneself. If one wants to cultivate this technique, one must first castrate oneself." Shock flashed across Yi Chen's face. The black-clothed old man nodded repeatedly. "That's right. However, we're both cultivators. We're destined to be heartless and have few desires. As long as we can become stronger, that thing is useless." Yi Chen's expression changed immediately, as if he was hesitating. The black-clothed old man was secretly delighted, but he pretended to be in a difficult position and said, "If there's really no other way, I still have a set of heart swords and technique here. If one cultivates it to mastery, one will be indestructible." Seeing him ramble on, the prisoners around him hurriedly turned their heads away, not daring to look or listen. "Little brother, this old man has given you a chance. The opportunity is right before your eyes. Whether or not you want to cherish it is up to you." The black-clothed old man said with incomparable sincerity, "I just want to pass down my legacy before I die. I hope you can fulfill my wish." Yi Chen suddenly said, "Why are you locked up here?" The black-clothed old man was instantly stunned when he heard this, and he seemed to have never expected that Shunshi would ask such a question. He couldn't help but spin his eyes as he said, "That old bastard Chi Daolin took a fancy to this old man's inheritance. Yet he couldn't seize it forcefully, so he set up a trap to capture me and trap me here." "Enough!" Yi Chen suddenly interrupted him and looked at him with a forced smile. "You have such pure demonic energy on you. Tell me, which part of the devil realm are you from?" As his voice fell, a glint flashed in the depths of the black-clothed old man's eyes. Then he said without batting an eyelid, "Little brother, you really know how to joke. What demon world? I'm just an old man that's about to die. You're quite good at pretending." Yi Chun chuckled softly, as if he was mocking. "Some of the cultivation methods that you mentioned earlier have drawbacks. You'll either have to chop off one of your legs or castrate yourself." He looked at the old man quietly. "You did it on purpose to lure out the last cultivation method called the Heart Sword Zen technique because you want to escape. I don't understand what you're talking about." The black-clothed old man's expression changed slightly, and he said furiously, "Since you don't want to believe me, then leave Heart Sword Zen technique." Yi Chen stood with his hands behind his back. He said with a light smile in a voice that only the old man could hear. Its original name was Demonic Parasitic Medium. It originated from the Borneo world of the Devil Realm, and was then passed down to the Spirit Realm. It was renamed Heart Sword Zen Technique. If a cultivator cultivates it to perfection, even if his body and soul are destroyed, as long as there are demonic thoughts in others' hearts, he will be resurrected. Before he could finish, the black-clothed old man's expression changed drastically. He glared at Yi Chun. "Who exactly are you?" The shock in his heart had reached an extreme point. Not only did Yi Chen know about the demon world, but he also knew about the real name of Borneo world among the 33 worlds of the demon world. He even knew about the origin of the spirit realm and the Heart Sword Zen technique. This was not something a small cultivator from the Kiliacosm could know. "I'm someone you can't imagine." Yi Chen lowered his voice and looked at him calmly. He said, "If you want to escape, you'll only have a chance if you submit to me, cunning brat." The black-clothed old man smirked coldly. "You want me, the Supreme Duqian Demon King, to submit to you? That's pure wishful thinking." Chapter 1369. Up to you. Yi Chen chuckled softly. Then, he turned around and walked towards the end of the prison. There was a large prison that had been opened up separately. "Why is that brat going to Sky Cage number 1? The old man in black looked at his figure, his eyes flickering nonstop. "This brat is so strange. He's definitely not an ordinary person. It's extremely likely that he's a higher-up of the Immortal Palace. No, even that Aunt Chi Daolin isn't as terrifying as him. The others were also confused. The surroundings of the prison were made of meteorites from outer space, and every pillar was engraved with dense runes and restrictions. This was the Sky Cage number 1 in the Immortal Palace's prison. No one knew what was locked inside, not even the prisoners in the other prisons. At this moment, in the Sky Cage number 1, there was a little girl about 5 or 6 years old hanging in midair. Her body was tied with chains covered in runes, and the chains were connected to the surrounding walls. The little girl wore tattered clothes, and her face was pitch black. Her eyes were slightly closed, and there were a few holes in her shoes, revealing her toes that were red from the cold. If one took a closer look, they would discover that the little girl's entire body was covered in frost. Her body was thin, and her face revealed great pain, as if she was enduring some great pain. On her shoulders, chest, and many other parts of her body, there were 9 black iron nails that emitted a monstrous cold air tightly fastened to her body. On the ground below the little girl, there was a little boy about 2 or 3 years old. His entire body was sealed in ice like an ice sculpture. Chanchin. Outside the cage, Yichin looked at the little girl who was nailed in midair quietly. His eyes twitched faintly. Spirit devouring body absolute formation. What a vicious method! He clenched his fists tightly, and his heart ached. The so-called spirit devouring body absolute formation was an extremely vicious method in the cultivation world. It pierced 9 een-held bone nails into the human body. The 9 een-held bone nails sealed the 9 entrances of the human body, and then continuously extracted the life force and energy from his body. The victim would suffer a pain that made him wish he was dead. Qi Daolin and the others were afraid of Qianqian's identity and were worried that something would happen. That was why they used this vicious formation to suppress her. Qi Daolin, Mu Shi. Yichin regretted not turning the 2 of them into ashes. It was insane to use such a vicious technique on a 5-year-old girl. Little brother. When his gaze landed on the ice sculpture on the ground, he discovered that the little boy in the ice had a dignified appearance, and his brows were somewhat similar to his. Little brother, big brother is here to save you. After taking a deep breath in, Yi Chun activated his true origin energy and performed the major 5 elements restriction breaking tactic to break the cage forcefully. He then stepped in. With a wave of his sleeve, he immediately embraced Lord Ice's younger brother, and then divine flames shot out from his eyes and enveloped the ice sculpture. As the cold air rose, the ice sculpture melted in a short moment, revealing the appearance of the little fellow in his arms. The little girl was only a year old, but her body was exactly the same as a 2 or 3-year-old. She had thick brows and big eyes, and she looked a little braver than Yichun. Yichun could not help but heave a sigh of relief when he sensed that his brother's aura was still around. He then turned around to look at Qianqian, who was nailed in midair. Retrieve. He stretched out his hand from afar, and a terrifying, devouring power came from his palm. He immediately sucked out the 9 black nails that fixed the little girl in place. Break! Immediately after, he used his fingers as a blade, and 2 streaks of saber gleam cut through the air and slashed at the chains that trapped the little girl. The little girl fell to the ground quickly, but Yi Chen caught her with one hand and carried her in his arms. A strange scene followed. The little girl's complexion and aged face immediately recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye. Even the wounds on her body were no exception. Yi Chen's eyes flashed imperceptibly, as expected of the incarnation of the heavenly Tao. Cough, cough, cough. As a series of violent coughs were heard, Qianqian opened her eyes slowly. She could not help but be overjoyed when she saw Yi Chen, big brother. Yi Chen looked at her with a complicated gaze. His rationality told him that the person in his arms was not an ordinary 5 or 6-year-old child, but the reincarnation of the heavenly Tao. Big brother, did you save me? Qianqian looked around, and when she noticed the broken chain, a look of fear emerged on her little face. Eventually, Yi Chen said softly, "Yes, Big Brother is here to save you. Come out with Big Brother." Qianqian lowered her head and looked at her dirty self. She lowered her head and said weakly, "Big Brother, put me down. I can walk by myself, She was afraid that she would dirty Yi Chen's clothes. All right. Yi Chen put her down. Thank you, big brother. Qian wiped her tears and looked at Yi Chen with gratitude. I thought I would never see you again. It's okay. You're safe now. Yi Chen could not bear to hold her hand. He carried his brother in one hand and walked out of Sky Number 1 prison. The moment Yi Chen walked out of Sky Number 1 prison with Qian, all the prisoners in the prison fixed their eyes on them. Who was that little girl? And the little guy in that kid's arms? Oh my God, they actually walked out of Sky Number 1 prison. Could it be that the little girl and the little guy are the people imprisoned in Sky No 1 prison? The originally silent heavenly prison was instantly filled with countless whispers. They could not be blamed for being so shocked. Sky Number 1 prison was extremely mysterious in their eyes, and there were soul formation cultivators among them. Even so, they still did not deserve to be locked in Sky Number 1 prison. Even the old man in black, who was extremely strange in their eyes, only deserved to be locked in Earth prison. The old man in Earth prison stared at Qian with deep shock in his heart. Strange, this little girl clearly doesn't have any cultivation base in her body, so why does she give me a creepy feeling? At that moment, he felt that the power in his body was about to go berserk, as if he was about to go berserk. Under countless gazes, Qian seemed a little afraid. She landed behind Yi Chen by instinct and peeked her head out to look at the prisoners timidly. Yi Chen patted her hand by instinct and comforted her softly. Don't be afraid. They can't hurt you. Big brother, who are they? Qian finally mustered up her courage and scanned each cage one by one. Are they all locked up here like me? Yes, they're the same as you. Yi Chen nodded. They're so pitiful. Qian's eyes glistened with tears. She tugged at the corner of Yi Chen's shirt and begged him, Big brother, can you let them out? Yi Chen wanted to refuse by instinct. However, on second thought, he had already destroyed the Immortal Palace. After he left, the prison would collapse sooner or later without the support of energy, and the people inside would escape. Instead of that, it would be easier for Yi Chen to let them out in advance. After all, there were more than 10 soul formation powerhouses among them, and there were countless golden core cultivators. The conversation between the two of them was heard by everyone. In an instant, there were countless arguments in the heavenly prison. Little brother, I'm the second-generation sect master of the Void Infinity sect. As long as you let me out, I'll definitely reward you. I'm the sect master of the Fire Worship sect in the Mystic Yang region. Little brother, if you let me out, I'm willing to serve you. The entire prison was shaken. Yi Chen secretly scoffed when he heard the many prisoners' promises to him. Subsequently, he walked to a cage and used his finger as a blade to cut the lock directly. Inside was a red-haired old man at the beginner soul formation stage. The old man claimed to be the sect master of the Fire Worship sect in the Mystic Yang region. Ha ha! I, the Fire Worship Divine Lord, am finally free. As soon as the red-haired old man walked out of the cage, he threw his head back and laughed. Qi Daolin, you destroyed my Fire Worship sect and imprisoned me here. I'll repay you tenfold. It's time for you to fulfill your promise. Yi Chen interrupted him and said expressionlessly, You can kneel and acknowledge me as your master now. Acknowledge you as my master? The red-haired old man sneered when he heard that. A cold, killing intent flashed across his eyes. Brat, I was just bluffing you to escape earlier. You actually took it seriously. In order to thank you, I can leave your corpse intact. With that, he shook his sleeve and extended his hand at Yi Chen with a monstrous aura. Terrifying flames bloomed on his fingers. Chapter 1370. Thud. Under everyone's gazes, a large head was thrown into the air. The eyes on the head were wide open, as if they were filled with shock and disbelief. Plop! The red-haired old man's headless body fell heavily to the ground. Yi Chen said without even lifting his head, I knew you would do this. Immediately after, a red light shot out from the corpse on the ground, revealing a panic-stricken face. Then it was about to break through the air and leave. Yi Chen curled his fingers slightly and grabbed the former from afar. The former's expression was filled with fear. My lord, spare me, bang. before he was done speaking, Yi Chun crushed him into pieces. In an instant, the entire prison fell into dead silence. Everyone looked at Yi Chun with fear in their eyes. Killing a beginner stage, god, transformation, stage powerhouse instantly. From the beginning to the end, the fire worship sect master did not even have the strength to resist. His soul was destroyed just like that. At this moment, they finally realized that Yi Chun was not as simple as they had imagined. Decisive and decisive. Interesting, the black-clothed old man in the earth cage could not help but narrow his eyes in praise. This brat has a 10,000th of my elegance when I was young. Yi Chun ignored everyone's gazes and said lightly, "Let me introduce myself. I'm Mad Southern Yi. I've destroyed the immortal palace you guys are talking about." The moment these words were spoken, it was like a thunderclap that stirred up an endless storm and shock in the surroundings. What? He destroyed the immortal palace? How is this possible? The immortal palace has the 5 hall masters and other late-stage god transformation stage powerhouses. In addition, there's Qi Daolin, the master of the immortal palace who's a perfected god transformation stage powerhouse. How could they be destroyed so easily? Everyone was shocked and could not believe their ears. Even the black-clothed old man in the earth cage was no exception. Yi Chun said again, "None of the 5 immortal palace masters that you guys mentioned were left alive. Qi Daolin has already died in my hands. Brat, don't even think about lying to us." A late-stage god transformation stage old man in a prison sneered. "You think you could destroy the immortal palace? Do you really think we're 3-year-olds? Really?" Yi Chun shook his head lightly and lifted his eyes to look at him. Suddenly, 2 beams of divine light shot out from his eyes and charged at the former. The former screamed as his body collapsed on the spot. Only his primordial spirit escaped. However, his eyes were filled with fear when he looked at Yi Chun again. What kind of divine ability was this? It actually destroyed his physical body. On the other hand, the pupils of the others constricted violently, while tempestuous waves that were intense to the extreme arose in their hearts. "Yes, I did. You wanted me to brand you with my soul." Yi Chun smiled sinisterly and enunciated word by word. "As for those who don't want me to plant the primordial spirit imprint and don't want to come out, there's only one outcome: death." An hour later, there were close to 100 figures standing before Yi Chun. Among them, there was 1 advanced stage god transformation stage, 5 mid-stage god transformation stage, 10 early-stage god transformation stage, and the rest were nascent soul cultivators. This old man, Hai Wuya, greets the High Lord. The leading old man smiled bitterly and knelt on one knee before Yi Chun. From now on, his life was in Yi Chun's hands. Plop! At the same time, the other 100 people knelt at Yi Chun and shouted, "Greetings, High Lord." They finally believed what Yi Chun said after Yi Chun killed a few god transformation stage cultivators one after another. They could only let Yi Chun plant the soul imprint in their bodies obediently. Yi Chun ignored them and turned around to look at the old man in black in the earth prison. He said with a forced smile, "Are you choosing death?" The old man's expression changed slightly before he said coldly, "Fellow, one should forgive people whenever possible. Don't go overboard. I'm not like the trash behind you. I'm sorry." Yi Chun shook his head and said with a cold smile, "I like to control everything when I do things. I don't like any factors that are unfavorable to me. I'll either subdue them or kill them." He was certain that the old man before him must have come from the devil world, and the devil world was on the same level as the immortal world. There must be some secret for the other party to appear here. Such an existence was even more threatening. "Then I'll have to kill you." Yi Chun's voice was slightly cold. Before he finished speaking, his body flashed, and he appeared outside the earth prison in the next moment. The old man's expression changed drastically, and he could not help but say repeatedly, "Wait, I submit, I submit. Let me plant the soul imprint." Yi Chun broke the lock and forced him to give up resisting. He planted the primordial spirit imprint in his body and said, "Tell me now, where are you from? What's your name? Why are you here?" "My name is Duchian Devil King." A gleam flashed through the old man's eyes as he secretly sent a voice transmission. I'm from the devil world's Dutian devil region. I accidentally landed in this world due to an accident. Stubborn, Yichin scoffed coldly and retracted the primordial spirit imprint that he planted in his body. The old man screamed continuously and revealed a pained expression. To be precise, I'm a wisp of the Dutian Devil King's demonic consciousness. To avoid his pursuit, I had no choice but to hide in this world. As he narrated, Yichin gradually found out that the master of the devil world's Dutian Devil region, the Dutian Devil King, had encountered a problem during his closed-door cultivation. A wisp of demonic consciousness took the opportunity to betray him and fell into the spatial turbulence in a hurry. In the end, he came here and possessed a mid-stage god transformation stage powerhouse who was about to die, but he could not escape. Dutian Devil Region? Dutian Devil King? Yi Chen's eyes flickered. He had been to the devil world before, but he had never heard of this place. However, he was sure that the old man was telling the truth. The devil world was divided differently from the cultivation world and the immortal world. They were true demons, heavenly demons, devil generals, supreme, true demons, foreign demons, demon kings, demon emperors, demon gods. The corresponding immortal world realms were true immortal, mysterious immortal, heavenly immortal, golden immortal, overarching heavenly supreme immortal, great overarching golden immortal, immortal lord, immortal king, primordial chaos, great overarching golden immortal. Meanwhile, Yi Chun was once a primordial chaos, great overarching golden immortal. Immortal, venerable, and heavenly emperor were just titles. They represented the king of immortal kings, which was equivalent to the master of the devil world, the demon gods. This Dutian devil king must have the cultivation of a demon king, which was why he could rule a region by himself. His cultivation level was equivalent to the primordial chaos, great, overarching, golden immortal in the immortal world. Looks like I was overthinking. Yichin secretly heaved a sigh of relief as he thought to this point. He thought that the people from the devil world had found out about his whereabouts and had infiltrated here. You're just a wisp of demonic consciousness. You have no cultivation base. Yichin then looked at the old man in black and said, You can only rely on deceiving others. Therefore, you immediately admitted defeat when you saw that I was serious earlier. Sir, although I'm just a wisp of demonic consciousness of the Dutian Devil King, I've inherited most of his memories. The old man in black thought that Yi Chun thought he was useless. He could not help but say in fear and trepidation, I know many cultivation methods, and even immortal spells that your world doesn't have. That's why I've kept you alive until now. Yi Chun secretly scoffed and said, If you're smart, perhaps I'll help you return to the devil world in the future and devour the Dutian Devil King's main consciousness. Who knows, you might even be able to take over. This was also an idea that he had on the spur of the moment. It was very difficult to return to the immortal world, but it was much easier to go to the devil world. After all, the devil world had repeatedly infiltrated the lower realms in an attempt to enslave the worlds. Therefore, many worlds had passageways to the devil world. Thank you, sir. The old man in black was overjoyed. Let's go. Yi Chun turned around and glanced at the 100 people behind him before walking out of the prison with Qianqian. When he reappeared at the entrance of the Immortal Palace's meeting hall, Yi Wushuang quickly walked up to him and said, Big brother, sister-in-law, is about to give birth. Chapter 1371. Yuhan is going to give birth. Yi Chen's body trembled when he heard what Yi Wushuang said. Then, endless joy surged in his eyes. Yuhan was going to give birth. Yi Chen's second child in this world was about to be born. He immediately turned around and walked into the depths of the hall. He seemed to be too excited and staggered. Yi Wushuang hurriedly supported him. He did not know whether to laugh or cry. It was the first time he had seen Yi Chun lose his composure like that. However, he was also extremely happy. He and Yi Chun were not family, but they were more like family. Naturally, he was looking forward to the birth of the little girl. At that moment, the depths of the conference hall were already filled with people. The Patriarch of Hell, Shi Qianhan, and the rest. In front of them was a curtain that was separated by a piece of cloth. A heart-wrenching scream of pain could be heard from the room in front of the curtain. Everyone nervously peered through the curtain. Even though the curtain had the effect of blocking divine senses, it could not stop the nervousness in everyone's hearts. At that moment, Yi Hai paced back and forth in the corridor from time to time. When he saw Yi Chun and Qianhan walking over, he immediately went up to them. Xiao Chun, Yuhan is going to give birth. Your mother and Miss Jiao are taking care of her inside. He only noticed the dignified little girl in Yi Chen's arms after saying that. He could not help but be delighted. Xiaoxing. Yi Chen handed his brother and Qianqian to him. He was about to lift the curtain and enter nervously when Yi Hai stopped him. Xiao Chun, it's better if you don't go in. You're a man. If you don't know how to deliver a baby, you'll only be troubled if you go in. Trust your mother. Yi Hai knew that he was nervous, but he still comforted him. It's better to be quiet at a time like this. Dad, I'm really worried if I don't go in and watch over her. Yi Chun forced a smile and was about to go in immediately. Then he suddenly turned around and looked outside the immortal palace. His gaze was extremely cold. Are these bastards courting death? In the next moment, he disappeared on the spot. After him, the Patriarch of Hell seemed to have sensed something. He sneered and followed him out. What happened? This sudden scene caused the remaining people who remained on the spot to be extremely astonished, and a few of them followed him out. Outside, the immortal palace in the mountains. At this moment, regardless of whether it was on the ground or in the sky, there were countless black figures that covered the sky and covered the earth. The ground was shaking, the sky was shaking, rocks were falling, and the mountains were trembling. It was as if a magnificent army was charging over. All kinds of terrifying auras filled the air, causing people's hearts to tremble. If one were to look carefully, one would notice that the numerous black shadows were demon beasts of various shapes and sizes, and their entire bodies emitted monstrous, ferocious auras. There was a giant black ape running wildly in the forest, crossing thousands of feet with a single step. It was like a giant with a blue sky above its head, and there was a ferocious bird with giant wings flapping its wings as it flew across the sky. The black silhouettes swarmed towards the immortal palace, as if something fatal was attracting them. When Bei Ming and the rest arrived next to Yi Chun and the Patriarch of Hell, they were shocked speechless by the scenes before them. Beast Tide, a boundless and shocking beast tide. Shi Qianhan took a deep breath and said, "Why would a beast tide erupt here? We have never provoked them." Very simple. The Patriarch of Hell narrowed his eyes and sneered. These evil beasts are here for fellow Ye's child that is about to be born. At this point, he could not help but click his tongue. Tens of thousands of demons have surrounded the immortal palace, and the beasts are rioting. It looks like fellow Ye's child that is about to be born will definitely be extraordinary in the future. Even ghosts knew to absorb the yang energy of living humans, so the phenomenon of demon beasts eating humans was a common occurrence. Especially when a person that possessed great karmic luck was born, it would even cause all the demon beasts to go berserk. What do we do now? Someone asked in a deep voice. Facing such a terrifying beast horde, even a soul formation stage cultivator would have to retreat. Moreover, there were likely many soul formation stage demon kings among the beast horde. Yi Chen looked at the beast horde that covered the sky and earth. Yi Chen's eyes turned cold. Subsequently, he soared into the sky and stepped into the air. His voice was like thunder. Today is the day my second child is born. I don't want to kill. I order all of you to retreat immediately. Rumble. When he said the last word, a mighty sound rang out in the sky. It was as if 100 bolts of lightning were rumbling in the sky at the same time. However, the beast horde was indifferent to his warning. Instead, they sped up and surrounded the immortal palace. Evil beasts, you're courting death. Yi Chen was furious. His figure suddenly expanded as if he had transformed into a golden giant. He was as tall as the sky and shook the surroundings. Rumble. In the sky, a huge golden foot descended from the sky and stomped on the endless horde of beasts, forcefully crushing a mountain. In an instant, the beast horde within a radius of 3,000 meters was reduced to ashes. However, The beast horde behind him continued to advance fearlessly. Attack! The patriarch of Hell's Gaze turned cold as he took the lead to attack. With a wave of his sleeve, a black vortex appeared in the sky. The vortex grew larger and larger, eventually turning into a tornado that connected the sky and earth. Boom! The black tornado pierced the sky and connected the heavens and the earth. It was majestic, and it fell into the endless beast horde like a mountain torrent. At the same time, Hallmaster North Yin and the many powerhouses that Yi Chun had released from the Immortal Palace's prison attacked together. Nearly 30 God Transformation Stage cultivators attacked together. They activated their divine abilities, and sword gleams shot out, causing the beast horde to scream in pain. At that moment, waves of heart-wrenching pain rang out from the Immortal Palace. It was Su Yuhan's voice. Yuhan. Yi Chen's expression changed slightly. Without hesitation, he appeared in the Immortal Palace's meeting hall. He ignored Yi Hai's obstruction and lifted the curtain to rush into the delivery room. He saw his mother, Wu Lan, and Jier busy. Su Yuhan, who was lying on the bed, grabbed the edge of the bed tightly. Hot sweat drenched her hair, and her face was extremely pale. On her abdomen, there was a scarlet blood stain the bed sheet. Jier kept stopping the bleeding and said in a trembling voice, "Young master, Sister Su is having a difficult labor. Xiao-chun, Yuhan has lost too much blood. I'm afraid." Wu Lan was panicking at that moment and stammered. Yi Chen's heart sank, and he took a few steps forward immediately. Su Yuhan, whose face was so pale that there was no trace of blood, said in extreme pain when she saw Yi Chun, "Yi Chun, stay with me. Stay with me. I'm in so much pain." "All right, I'll stay with you." Yi Chun held her hand tightly. "Don't talk. Hold on. Believe in yourself." Yi Chun. Su Yuhan looked at him with strong reluctance and determination. "I might not be able to make it, but I'll insist on giving birth to this child." End of this chapter. Chapter 1372. At the same time, the gray aura emanating from her body was getting stronger and stronger, and Su Yuhan's body was getting weaker and weaker. The gray aura was death aura. When the death aura on a person's body condensed above their head, it would be the day of reincarnation. "Yi Chun, you have to promise me." Su Yuhan forced a smile and looked at him. She smiled sadly. "If I die, you have to take good care of Meng Meng." Yi Chun felt a sharp pain in his heart when he heard that. He could not help but hold Su Yuhan's hand tightly and said with a trembling voice, "No, you have to promise me that you'll live. You can't die. Even if heaven wants you to die, I'll take you back." As he finished speaking, a fierce and resolute look appeared in his eyes. Then he hammered his chest with both hands. At that moment, a drop of golden blood shot out from his chest. As soon as the drop of golden blood appeared, a terrifying divine might spread throughout heaven and earth. From afar, it did not look like blood at all. Instead, it looked like a golden divine fire. It was dazzling and caused heaven and earth to dim. Wu Lan and Jier were stunned by that scene. Under their gazes, Yi Chen's complexion suddenly became extremely dispirited, as if he had aged dozens of years in an instant. Yi Chen's body trembled slightly. Then, he forcefully injected the drop of golden blood into Su Yuhan's glabella. It was his last drop of heart blood. Every cultivator had 3 drops of heart blood. It was the foundation of cultivation and vitality. Once the 3 drops were exhausted, it meant that the person was not far from death. Yi Chen also had 3 drops. He gave the first drop to his daughter and the second drop to save Qian. However, he still gave 3 drops to Su Yuhan without hesitation. As soon as the heart blood entered Su Yuhan's body, it exploded with terrifying energy like a drop of water falling into a pot of boiling oil. Su Yuhan could not help but grunt. Yi Chen was quick to react. He sealed most of the power of the drop of heart blood and fixed it in Su Yuhan's body. Only 1/10 of its energy turned into a trickle to nourish Su Yuhan's body. At that moment, Su Yuhan gradually regained some color. The death aura on her body weakened significantly, and she stopped bleeding. She closed her eyes slowly as she looked at Yi Chen's dry hair and pale face. Tears rolled down the corner of her eyes. "Why are you so stupid?" Although she had no idea what Yi Chun had given her, she could tell from the changes in Yi Chun's body that it was very important to him. Yi Chun smiled sadly with determination in his eyes. "I've told you that even if God wants you dead, I'll get you back. If the king of hell dares to take you in, I'll kill my way into the nine-tiered netherworld." At the same time, he felt the power in his body depleting at a visible rate. The heart was equivalent to the engine of the human body. All the blood circulation in the human body had to pass through the heart, and the heart blood was born from the heart. It could provide the human body with an endless supply of essence qi, which was equivalent to a natural energy crystal. Wu Lan's heart was filled with sorrow when she saw the changes on Yi Chun. "Xiao Chun, Mom, continue delivering Yuhan's baby." Yi Chun gave her a pale smile and inserted the spiritual power in his body into her body at the same time. "Good, good, good." Wu Lan wiped her tears and held back her tears as she called Jiu to deliver Yuhan's baby. After an unknown period of time, Jiu-er's excited voice sounded in the room. "Young master, it's out. The head is out. Yuhan, inhale and use force." Wu Lan's eyes were filled with tears. Not long after, a baby's cry rang out in the narrow delivery room. "Wah, it's born, it's born." Wu Lan hurriedly cut off the umbilical cord and wrapped the baby in swaddling clothes. She looked at Yuhan and Yi Chun with tears of joy. Meanwhile, Yihai and the rest in the outside world could not contain their excitement when they heard the baby's cry. Wah! Although the baby's cry was neither loud nor soft, it shook the entire immortal palace. It was like the beginning of chaos, and it was clear and loud as it covered the entire Tantian mountain. The patriarch of hell and the rest, who were fleeing from the beasts, heaved a sigh of relief when they heard the sound. Someone raised his head abruptly and pointed at the sky above the immortal palace. "Patriarch, look! What's that?" Everyone looked over and saw that above the immortal palace, there was a golden pillar that pierced through the clouds, piercing through the heavens. The pillar of light that pierced through the heavens came from the delivery room. At that moment, the entire four regions of the vast purple world saw the pillar of light from afar. It was like a golden dragon connecting the heavens and the earth. "What's that?" At this moment, everyone was shocked. Many experts who had lived in seclusion revealed looks of astonishment. The patriarch of hell also looked at the pillar of light in shock and muttered, "The phenomenon of a golden dragon soaring into the sky. What a monster! What a monster!" In the delivery room, the baby's cries became louder and louder. Wu Lan handed the swaddling cloth in her arms to Yi Chun. She was overjoyed. "Xiao Chun, Yuhan really gave birth to a chubby boy for you." Yi Chun took it carefully and took a look. What he saw was a wrinkled face. However, the nose and lips were identical to Yi Chun's, and the eyes were like Yuhan's. Especially the feeling of blood being thicker than water, it made his heart skip a beat. It was as if all the blood in his body was boiling. Wu Lan was worried that he would not like it, so she explained subconsciously, "Xiao Chun, newborn children are like this. When you were born, you were as black as charcoal." Joe almost laughed out loud when she heard that. To her surprise, the little girl stopped crying as soon as Yi Chun carried her in his arms. Instead, she looked at him quietly with her eyes wide open. It was the first time the father and son looked at each other. "He's really something." Yi Chun was so excited that he almost screamed. He was grinning from ear to ear as he played with the little girl's mail toy. Blurg, at that moment, a stream of water shot up from the sky and sprayed on his face, as if it was the saying, "A stream falls 3,000 feet straight down." The atmosphere in the room suddenly fell silent. Then, it was broken by Jiu-er's laughter. "Young master, he's booing you." "Oh my, I'm dying of laughter." Wu Lan could not help but laugh out loud, too. Yi Chun wiped his face and looked at the little girl in his arms. He saw the little girl giggling. "Brat, I'll remember this," Yi Chun said with a grim face. Yi Chun said with a grim expression. He carried the little girl to the bed immediately and said to Su Yuhan, who looked weak, "Look, Yuhan, this is our son." Before he could finish, the little girl in his arms reached out her hand with a trembling hand, as if she wanted to shake Su Yuhan's hand. A loving smile appeared on Su Yuhan's face. She reached out her hand to shake it, but she fainted in the next moment. End of this chapter. Chapter 1373. Wu Lan and Jiao went up to her immediately. They lifted their eyes to look at Yi Chun after seeing that she was still breathing. Xiao Chun, is Yuhan all right? Yi Chun placed his hand on Su Yuhan's wrist. His expression changed a few times before he said in a deep voice, "She's fine." Although that was what he said, his heart was getting heavier and heavier. Half a year. Su Yuhan only had half a year left to live. She originally had a year of lifespan, but after giving birth, she lost a lot of vitality and completely damaged her foundation. Even with his drop of heart blood, it was useless because one's lifespan could not be controlled. Once one's lifespan was up, even if one was alive and kicking 1 second ago, one would not be able to escape death in the next. It seemed like he had to think of a way to increase Yuhan's cultivation base. Yi Chun's heart was heavy. The longevity pill was useless to Su Yuhan. Only by letting her step into God transformation within half a year could she live another 1,000 years. That's great. Wu Lan heaved a sigh of relief as if a heavy burden had been lifted from her shoulders. She then said earnestly, "Xiao Chun, don't think that I'm naggy. You've seen how difficult it is for a woman to give birth. You must treat Yuhan well in the future." "Got it, Mom." Yi Chun took a deep breath in and said, "Mom, Jiao, you guys must be tired. Go and rest. I want to accompany Yuhan." Wu Lan nodded and left with Jiao. At that moment, only Yi Chun, who was carrying the child, and Su Yuhan, who had fallen asleep, were left in the room. Yi Chun felt a sharp pain in his heart for no reason as he looked at Su Yuhan's beautiful face. He then freed a hand to caress her face and mumbled, "Don't worry, Yuhan. I won't let you die. If heaven wants you dead, I'll destroy heaven." He was like a fool as he said many things to Su Yuhan. Surprisingly, the little girl in his arms did not make a fuss. After some time, Su Yuhan woke up from her coma. After hugging the child first, she looked at Yi Chun's slightly old face. "Silly, was it worth it?" "Of course it was." Yi Chun placed her hand on his face and said while smiling lightly, 3,000 years of suffering is all because you're the obsession in my heart. Without you guys, what's the point of me, Yi Chun, being immortal and indestructible?" She suddenly said softly, "Yi Chun, let's go back to Earth. Let's go home. I want to take a look." Although Yi Chun did not mention it, she knew about her body's condition. She was worried that she would pass away before she could reminisce about the past. "All right." Yi Chun smiled lightly. "I'll bring you back tomorrow." Su Yuhan revealed a satisfied smile and fell asleep in a daze. Her beautiful face was heart-wrenching. After Yi Chun combed her body with spiritual power, he carried the child and walked out. "Congratulations, fellow Taoist Yi. Both mother and child are safe." The Patriarch of Hell was the first to welcome him. As if he was performing a magic trick, a blood-colored rui appeared in his hand. "This is the Phoenix blood rui that I obtained previously. It's a gift for this little guy. It can nourish his body." Yi Wushuang followed closely behind and said with a smile, "Congratulations, brother. Is sister-in-law all right?" Shi Qianhan, Ho, Master Bei Yun, and the rest also congratulated him. At the same time, they offered their sincerity. Not long after, there were all sorts of dazzling magic treasures hanging around the little guy's neck and hands. Even the red doo-doo was a spirit treasure. It could avoid water and fire, and it was invulnerable. What they did not see was that in the corner, a 6-year-old kid was watching this scene silently. He bit his lips and looked aggrieved. After Yi Chun responded to everyone with a smile, Yi Hai walked up to him excitedly. "Xiao Chun, let me see my grandson." Subsequently, he took the child from Yi Chun's embrace and grinned from ear to ear. "The Yi family has a descendant. The Yi family has a descendant." The Yi family was a traditional family. Even though Yi Hai did not value sons over daughters and liked his eldest granddaughter very much, the older generation still hoped that they could have a son to inherit their surname and bloodline. Wah! As soon as he hugged him, the obedient little girl immediately burst into tears, scaring Yi Hai so much that he broke out in cold sweat. "Dad, let me do it." Yi Chun hugged him while smiling. The little girl was still crying. Everyone stared at each other and said, "Could it be that it's hungry?" "That's possible." Yichen nodded and was subsequently troubled. "But what should I feed it with? Su Yuhan has just given birth, and her body is weak." Just when everyone was helpless, the Patriarch of Hell chuckled. "I have an idea." After saying that, he disappeared from where he was. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, he appeared again, but there were two colorful female deer in his hands. These were two golden core stage female deer. As soon as the two female deer appeared, they immediately tried to escape in a panic. However, they were shocked by the Patriarch of Hell's aura. "You two little fellows, I know that you can understand me." He pointed at the little girl in Yi Chen's embrace after saying that and said, "This little cub doesn't have any milk to drink. You guys have to work hard. I'll give you a chance to transform later." The two female deer were unwilling at first, but after hearing the Patriarch's last sentence, they nodded with great interest. Jior immediately took the bowl and squeezed it in front of everyone, causing the two female deer to cover their eyes in embarrassment. Yichen took the bowl of deer milk and scooped a spoonful of it to the little girl gently. "Open your mouth and drink." The little fellow immediately stopped crying. He opened his mouth and drank mouthful after mouthful. He drank 3 full bowls of the soup. When the Patriarch of Hell saw this, he flicked his finger and 2 transformation pills shot at the 2 female deer. "I'll keep my promise." These are transformation pills. They can help you transform. Unexpectedly, the 2 female deer shook their heads and refused. Then, they knelt before the Patriarch of Hell and Yi Chen. A crisp voice that sounded like an oriole was heard. "Master, we don't want the transformation pills. We just want to follow you." Eh? The Patriarch of Hell was a little surprised. Subsequently, he could not help but look at Yi Chen and say with a smile, "These 2 little fellows are smart. They know that the transformation pills can only allow them to transform, but they can't go further." Yi Chen pondered for a moment and said with a nod, "Sure, but you guys need to feed my son in the future." "Thank you, Master." The 2 female deer were overjoyed when they heard that. After he was done, Yi Chen handed the child to his mother, Wulan. He then thought of something and could not help but size up the crowd. "Where's Meng Meng?" As soon as he said that, everyone looked around. Yi Hao was confused. "I saw this girl just now. How did she disappear in the blink of an eye?" End of this chapter. Chapter 1375. The Star Pavilion's founding ceremony was held simply. Yi Chen preached in front of everyone at the ceremony. He even told them about the many strange things that he knew about the cultivation world. Even so, it still shocked the entire firmament purple world. Many god transformation stage powerhouses who were initially unconvinced were even more shocked after hearing it. Subsequently, they were convinced by Yi Chen. It was Yi Chen who let them know that the firmament purple world was just a drop in the ocean in the vast world. There were 9 heavens and 10 lands above the firmament purple world. It was also Yi Chen who let them know that there were supreme realms such as void refinement, soul splitting, integration, and tribulation transcendence above the god transformation stage. When a person's knowledge skyrocketed, his mentality would undergo a tremendous change. His vision would no longer be limited to a river or a river. The Tantian Mountain was also renamed the Star Mountain. From then on, everyone in the firmament purple world knew that from now on, the Immortal Palace would be replaced by the Star Pavilion. The Star Pavilion had completely become the overlord of the firmament purple world. On the 3rd of April, in year 36,584 of the firmament purple calendar, a giant teleportation formation erupted with terrifying power on Star Mountain. The formation originally belonged to the Immortal Palace and could lead to the ancient desolate realm. Now, it was strengthened by Yi Chen and the Patriarch of Hell. At that moment, Yi Chen held Su Yuhan's hand outside the teleportation formation. He looked at the black silhouettes before him quietly. They were all the upper echelons of the Star Pavilion. "Heavenly Lord Yi, are you really leaving?" Qin Song of the Kangwu Qin family, who was now the pavilion master of the Star Pavilion, looked at Yi Chen reluctantly. His eyes were filled with gratitude. The Kangwu Qin family was only a third-rate cultivation family in the Luoxiao region, and his cultivation base had only just stepped into golden core. However, Yi Chun made him the leader of the Star Pavilion, the #1 overlord of the firmament purple world. Such an honor made him feel like he was in a dream. Think about it, a golden core stage cultivator leading a group of soul formation stage elders. If it was anyone else, they would also tremble with fear. All good things must come to an end. Yi Chun nodded lightly and glanced at Su Yuhan next to him. He said with a gentle expression, "Moreover, I just want to live a peaceful life with my wife now." Su Yuhan looked at him tenderly too. Seeing that Yi Chun had made up his mind to leave, Qin Song could not help but bow to Yi Chun hard. "No matter what, you're the real master of the Star Pavilion to me. If you need our help in the future, I'll definitely follow you with my life. We might meet again one day." Yi Chun said with a faint smile, "Therefore, I'll have to trouble you to take care of the family business for me. Cultivate the cultivation method that I've taught you. If you don't understand anything, you can ask the other God transformation stage elders." He originally wanted the North Sea Hall Masters Group to take the position of Star Pavilion Master, but they rejected it without hesitation. After the upheaval in the ancient barren world, most of their heritage was destroyed. They only wanted to rebuild their heritage to be worthy of their ancestors. "Let's go." Eventually, Yi Chun took another look at the firmament purple world. Subsequently, he held Su Yuhan's hand and brought the Patriarch of Hell and the rest into the teleportation formation. At that moment, the huge teleportation formation erupted with a dazzling light. Then, a terrifying teleportation power erupted. Qin Song watched Yi Chun and the rest disappear into the teleportation formation in a daze. Subsequently, he bowed deeply to that direction. "Heaven Lord Yi, have a safe journey." Behind him, all the members of the Qin family knelt on one knee. They were silent because they knew that Yi Chun had made them who they were today. In the ancient barren world, on a desolate island in Middle State, dozens of figures descended as light surged into the sky. As soon as he landed, Yi Chun staggered and groaned. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. His face turned paler. Su Yuhan held his hand tightly. There was a heartache between her brows. "Yi Chun, are you all right?" "I'm fine." Yi Chun wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and gave her a comforting smile. However, his complexion did not improve. Instead, it was getting worse. "Big brother." Yi Wushuang went forward to support him. Everyone had noticed this change in him a long time ago, and besides feeling sorrowful in their hearts, they felt even more pity. The Patriarch of Hell sighed softly to himself. He's exhausted the only 3 drops of heart blood. If it were anyone else, they would have died long ago. It's already not easy for fellow Yi to hold on until now. Yi Chun glanced at everyone. His gaze paused on Home Master Bei Yun and the rest. "Guys, do you want to return to your respective sect ruins to take a look?" Before this, he had already told them that he came from Earth. While everyone was shocked, they expressed their willingness to follow Yi Chun to Earth. "Then, I'll have to trouble you to wait for a moment. Heaven Lord Yi." The Emperor of Great Xia, Emperor Hua, took a step forward and cupped his fists at him. Then, he turned into a long rainbow and flew into the sky. Hall Master Bei Yun and the other powerhouses from the ancient barren world were no exception. They all rushed towards the ruins of their respective sections. After all, they did not know when they would return from Earth. It was necessary to inform their descendants before they left. Su Yuhan looked around quietly and said softly, "Yi Chun, did you descend from Earth to this place and then go to the purple world to find me?" "That's right." Yi Chun nodded while chuckling. "Can you take me to see it?" Su Yuhan gritted her teeth and looked at him with anticipation. "I want to know how much you suffered to find me." Yi Chun wanted to reject her, but he could not stand her beautiful gaze. In the end, he gave Yi Wushuang a look and held Su Yuhan's hand. He flew into the sky on a sword gleam. After he left, the Patriarch of Hell said, "Wait for me here. I'll be back soon after I settle some personal matters." Yi Wushuang nodded and stayed where he was to protect Yi Hai and his wife. Yi Chun took out the true martial thousand lightning sword and flew on his sword. He brought Su Yuhan around the Tianfeng Sea area. He patiently explained his experiences to her every time he passed by. His complexion was getting worse and worse. Tianfeng Sea area, King Mu fort. King Mu lay on the ground, drunk. His hair was disheveled, and his gaze was unfocused as he stared at the two paintings in front of him. The people in the two paintings were both women with extraordinary temperaments. One of them was a portrait of Mu Kaiwei. Kaiwei. King Mu took a sip of wine and looked at Mu Kaiwei's portrait quietly. His voice trembled as he said, "You shouldn't have saved that person back then. I shouldn't have helped you guys. I don't hate him. I only hate myself. Otherwise, you wouldn't have died." The current King Mu fort was extremely desolate. It was so desolate that there was not even a single servant to serve King Mu. King Mu was like a drunkard. He drank until he was drunk every day, looking at the paintings alone and muttering to himself. What he did not know was that there was a young man and woman looking at him silently outside the King Mu fort. The young man had an extremely complicated expression. The young man was Yi Chun. Su Yuhan, who was next to him, held his hand tightly and said softly, "Yi Chun, is this the father of Ms. Mu that you told me about?" Along the way, Yi Chun had already told her everything about how he and Mu Kaiwei got to know each other and how they fell out. Yi Chun nodded lightly. Su Yuhan bit her lip and could not help but say, "As a woman, I can feel that Ms. Mu has really fallen in love with you." At this point, she could not help but sigh faintly. Even though Ms. Mu did what she did later on, she did it for you. It's all in the past. Yi Chun was unwilling to talk about it. "No." Su Yuhan shook her head lightly and said, "Yi Chun, I'm not a jealous woman. Bring me to Ms. Mu's grave. I want to see her." In the mountain behind the King Mu fort, there were two tombstones with many offerings on them. It was likely that King Mu often came here to pay his respects. One of them seemed to have just been repaired. There was a grave wrapped in tender green grass, and the words Mu Kaiwei's grave were written on it. Su Yuhan walked over and squatted down. She gently pulled the grass that was blocking the tombstone with her hand and muttered to herself as she looked at the tombstone. At that moment, divine fire erupted from Yi Chun's eyes. He saw through the coffin deep underground. Apart from a few women's clothes, there was nothing else. King Mu must have built a cenotaph for Mu Kaiwei. "Ms. Mu, are you dead or alive?" Yi Chun had a complicated expression as he mumbled to himself. Before this, he knew that Mu Kaiwei's grave had exploded and her body was gone. Yi Dongli did not mention it to him before he died, so even he did not know about it. "Yuhan, let's go." Yi Chun took a deep breath in and walked over. He held Su Yuhan's hand and left on the sword gleam. Meanwhile, King Mu, who was drinking the wine in the pot in the house, realized that the taste was different. It was as if there was a trickle nourishing his body. However, King Mu, who was filled with sorrow, did not care at all. He was still drunk like a drunkard, living in sorrow. Ancient desolate realm, middle ground, Daoyuo dynasty. Dongzhong village had been renamed Dongzhong City. It was no longer a village with a population of less than 500, but a giant city with hundreds of thousands of people. Yi Chun walked leisurely on the bustling streets while holding Su Yuhan's hand. Their extraordinary temperament attracted many passers-by's attention. When they passed by a stall, Su Yuhan suddenly stopped and pointed at a wooden hairpin on the stall. "Yi Chun, I want this." Yi Chun stopped and looked over. The stall owner was an honest man. He could not help but walk up to them when he saw that. "May I know which hairpin you're interested in?" Yi Chun picked up the wooden hairpin that Su Yuhan wanted and said while smiling, "How much is this?" The stall owner was stunned. He did not expect the two luxuriously dressed people in front of him to ignore the golden hairpin and ask for a wooden hairpin instead. However, he still smiled and said, "It only costs 10 copper coins. However, I can tell that the two of you have a special relationship, so I won't charge you. Consider it a gift from me." Su Yuhan smiled playfully and pointed at her white hair. She said shyly like a girl, "Yi Chun, put on for me." "All right." Yi Chun smiled and inserted the wooden hairpin into her hair carefully. However, his heart was heavy as he looked at Su Yuhan's white hair. "Yi Chun, do I look good?" Su Yuhan looked at him nervously. End of this chapter.